Dongwoo was originally a top lawyer at a major company in South Korea. Unexpectedly, after taking a nap, he time-traveled back to the Stone Age. Every day, he has to live with a bunch of prehistoric people, dwelling in caves and eating raw food. The meals are entirely frogs and rats. If he doesn't want to starve, he has to force himself to swallow it. But the most boring part is the evening. Having no phone to watch idols on TikTok, he thought he would get the main character script. But who knew his time travel life would be this miserable? Then one night, Dongwoo's family was suddenly attacked by a saber-toothed tiger. Everyone in the group got separated, leaving only him and the fat uncle. Just like that, Dongwoo and his old man began their prehistoric survival life. Every morning, he usually wakes him up using physical methods. The mechanics are simple: a guy as big as an elephant punches the tiny guy, nearly causing him to log out of life right there. From hard stones, the fat uncle starts crafting hunting tools by hand. Dongwoo is speechless watching this. Prehistoric people are truly strong as oxen. Very quickly, a sharp stone knife was produced. The next morning, the two immediately took their gear and went into the forest to hunt. The fat guy pointed to the sky, signaling "let's go." Dongwoo walked following his instructions. Now he somewhat understood the method of communication of prehistoric people. He continued the journey following behind the fat guy. Not knowing why, the two hid behind a rock. Turns out, there was a herd of goats leisurely grazing ahead. Sure enough, Dongwoo immediately understood his meaning. What is it? Not catching them? The goat did not detect the danger lurking behind. The sky turned bright red, signaling that sunset was falling. A loud yawn escaped due to sleepiness. The fat guy hurriedly covered his mouth and signaled not to make noise. After eating their fill, the goats lay down to rest on the grass. Dongwoo's empty stomach wouldn't stop making noises. He couldn't take it much longer. Damn it, when exactly are we going to start? But the fat guy had no reaction at all. Not until dark did the firelight flicker in the cave. He and Dongwoo sat by the fire to keep warm. On the thick stone slab, they were actually roasting worms. The fat guy carefully blew on the food to cool it down, and immediately gave it to him to taste. And so, Dongwoo tried to eat to restore his energy. I really can't understand them. Why are there so many rocks in the bag? He assumed that with the fat guy's strength, finding food would be easy. Just take that rock and go catch something. Like primitive people do, that's all. Dongwoo himself raised the question. Why on earth are we eating this? The uncle noticed Dongwoo's actions. Despite him constantly reminding that there was meat up there, Dongwoo refused to give up in the face of difficulty. You understand my hand gestures, right? Who would have thought the fat guy would just stare blankly? His indifferent attitude made Dongwoo depressed. This guy doesn't get it, does he? Yet the fat guy still cared about him. Here, have another piece. Dongwoo shook his head to show dissatisfaction. Not this. I said I want to eat meat. Early in the morning, he and the fat guy left the cave. Surely Dongwoo had prepared himself, which is why he was smiling so brightly. Today is truly for hunting, right? The uncle placed his hand on a normal tree trunk. The fat guy used a sharp stone to hit the tree trunk. The somewhat silly action made him complain. Oh God, look at this. Dongwoo sat down, not understanding what effect this had. We're doing this now? What is he doing? Why suddenly attack a tree? Moreover, the fat guy kept striking it hard. He struggled while having to carry one end of this tree trunk. My side is very heavy. Sunlight covered the space outside the cave. He diligently scraped the bark off. Dongwoo's eyes were heavy from lack of sleep. His questions still had no answers. What is he doing? What is he creating? The job of scraping tree bark with a stone was part of the fat guy's life. He suddenly turned around to remind him, wait a bit. Dongwoo didn't understand what was happening. He looked in the direction of the fat guy's back. What is it? Where is he going all of a sudden? A long section of bark had been completely removed. Dongwoo was curious, so he went closer to take a look. He immediately brought it up to his nose to smell. Stones of all colors fell out of the bag. It wasn't clear what he wanted to find in there. Dongwoo lay in one spot observing the situation. What are these stones? What is he planning to do next? The fat guy focused intensely whenever he worked. He split a yellow stone into two parts. He gave a stone to Dongwoo. Try it. He had to use a lot of strength to split it in half. The fat guy continued scraping bark while Dongwoo smashed stones. He stopped complaining about the meaningless work. The colorful stones were arranged neatly. Dongwoo shouted to show off his results to him. The fat guy turned his head to glance. He still didn't feel it was enough, more. He was speechless at this situation. Dongwu frantically smashed the assigned stones. What on earth do you want to do? What is it? How much more do you want? But why, if this is a dream? Why am I sweating so much and feeling so tired? Damn it. The natural scenery was dyed yellow by the afternoon sun. The hard stones had now turned into a pile of fine dust. Finally, Dongwu was done. The fat guy rubbed his head in praise. He rolled onto the ground breathing heavily. But the fat guy diligently continued carving the wood. Dongwu could have dozed off at any moment. Instead, he suddenly sat up. Where did he go? Dongwu touched a wooden spear tip. Oh, this? It seems he secretly admired the fat guy's skills. Pretty good, huh? When he saw the size, Dongwu was panicked. But isn't this a bit too long? Perhaps he heard the fat guy's voice. He was crying outside again. Well, this situation is indeed worth crying over. Dongwu stopped when he saw the torch. He stared at it without blinking. The fat guy touched the orange powder. He used it to draw the first strokes on the rock. The yellow color helped the picture look warmer. Dongwu quietly watched. He continued to use blue for the picture. The image of primitive people dancing by the fire was recreated by the fat guy. He also had his own feelings. We don't forget our family. Dongwu's eyes became watery. The primitive people were drawn with many colors. On the wall, Dawn once again visited the cave. The fat guy used 2 fingers to swipe some orange paint. He smeared it on Dongwu's forehead and then his own. You and me. The fat guy considered him a person of the same tribe as family. Looking from the outside into the pitch-black cave, Dongwu unconsciously fell asleep, drooling. The fat guy removed the rough bark layer of the tree. The sun had risen past the peak of the mountain. Only now did he stretch and yawn. Due to overworking, the uncle was still sleeping in. Dongwu didn't understand, thinking the fat guy lost his spirit. He's gradually becoming lazy. He smiled sarcastically. Makes sense. In this situation, there's no need to work hard anyway. Alright, you don't have anything important to do anyway. It seems Dongwu discovered something. He was curious about the handmade spear. Why did this get shorter? Unbeknownst to him, the fat guy had woken up. This is for you. He was full of energy as the new day began. Let's go. The two went to the stream to bathe and clean up. Conveniently, the fat guy also drank water from there. Dongwu learned the way of scooping water with 2 hands, cupped together like the primitive man. He noticed a little green frog sunbathing on a rock. It didn't panic when being watched by humans. Dongwu's friendly appearance hid his dark intentions. Hello little frog, rest assured. Today we will have meat to eat. The fat guy used the newly made spear to help him climb the cliff. The two brought their tools up to the forest. The goat herd came here every day to graze. He signaled for the fat guy to easily follow. Aim for that one. It seems today he understood Dongwu perfectly. The fat guy prepared to throw the spear forward. With just a simple action, the goat was taken down by his spear. He raised his hand to show satisfaction. 1 shot, 1 kill. Amazing. The fat guy stood there stunned. Dongwu immediately volunteered. Even though I have to climb the mountain, I'll get it. He couldn't hesitate for another second. So he rushed towards the goat. Dongwu didn't know the situation had changed. Huh? What is that? A large bird with sharp talons was landing. He tried to chase it. Because the food was stolen right before his eyes. Dongwu couldn't accept the harsh truth. No. His hands grabbed the spear shaft tightly. Just like that, Dongwu was pulled off the ground by the bird. He couldn't help but worry. Damn it. Right at that moment, the fat guy was there to rescue Dongwu. Hold on tight. He lunged forward and hugged Dongwu tightly. The two of them were actually dangling in midair. The spear pierced through the goat's belly, seemingly secure. But who knew it would just rip out? The fat guy's back hit the ground. As he clung to the spear with him, he used his firm body to hug Dongwu tightly. Both rolled a few times and hit their backs against a rock. The regretful eyes of the fat guy and Dongwu looked towards the high sky. Turns out they were cursing the bird that had stolen today's food. You 2-legged bastard. Tears rolled down his cheeks. That was ours. That was ours. Sunset fell, causing the space to be covered in orange. He persistently threw spears at the herd of goats. But the goats managed to run away in time. The fat guy couldn't believe his eyes. Dongwu stood still without saying anything. The scene of the uncle saving Dongwu appeared again. Only now did he remember. Ah, he got hurt earlier, right? The sun had disappeared behind the foot of the mountain. The two returned after a hard day of hunting, but gained no results. They were too sad to even talk. The little frog was still lying on the rock. He immediately grabbed it. Sorry, little frog. Because I couldn't keep my promise to you. The fat guy quickly skewered the frog. Dongwu and he diligently caught frogs for dinner. The little frogs were lying on the pink flames. He hurriedly took a big bite. But Dongwu couldn't suppress a cry. Terrible. Darkness had covered the cave entrance. He took colored powder and drew on the stone wall. The uncle was stunned holding the torch for light. Dongwu then pointed at himself. He actually drew a large target circle on the stone. It seemed the fat guy understood a little. Dongwu prepared to throw the spear with force. It actually bounced off. The uncle personally instructed Dongwu, aim higher. The sharp tip came very close to the bullseye. The light of the torch dispelled the darkness in the cave. The moon and stars always accompanied each other in the night sky. There was a small hut on an ancient tree. Wild beasts came to disturb it at midnight. They kept making noises to attract the person in the house. The native attached a sharp stone blade to a stick. He gripped the wooden handle tightly. Turns out the skinny guy was trying to chase the wild beasts away from there. Go away. One evening inside the cave, Dongwu wondered vaguely, is it possible this isn't a dream? He was sad because every sensation seemed very real. Remembering the feeling of falling into deep water, Dongwu thought fleetingly, even the pain, making him feel like he was about to die. Before, he secretly asked, will I return to my original state if there is a huge shock? But when touching the fire, Dongwu inwardly screamed, too hot, with tears in his eyes. Is this method not working? After that foolish act, Dongwu reflected. Right, whether it's a dream or whatever. After a while I will wake up. No need to suffer pain in an extreme way. He also realized, it's pretty great here too. A vacation in a cave with nature. This helped Dongwu become more cheerful. Escaping work to relieve mental stress. However, he still had worries. But there's still the upcoming lawsuit. What should I do? Dongwu asked himself what to do here and how. At the same time, at a house built on a tree branch. Inside were pieces of fresh, delicious meat. On the ground, a pack of wolves barked loudly. The skinny guy used a spear to chase them. Get lost. Get lost. But they still tried to cling to the tree trunk to climb up. He worriedly looked for a way to cope. The skinny guy rolled his eyes observing the wolf pack. Suddenly he chuckled softly. A while later, the skinny guy fell asleep. Around the house, the amount of meat increased. Another day passed quietly. And a new day began. Looking at the blinding sun overhead, he was extremely bored. Dongwu signaled to the fat guy, nothing happening today. Keep going. Immediately, he raised the spear high and threw it at an animal nearby. One hit, one kill. He smiled slightly at this interesting experience. Both were happy, we have meat to eat. This made Dongwu extremely excited. When they got back to the cave, they hung the spoils up. The fat guy noted, look at this. Then he used a longitudinally sharpened stone to remove the deer's skin. He attentively watched him laboriously working. It took a long time for the fat guy to peel off the skin. He took it to the stream to wash and said, look. Dongwu was full of doubt. Skin? Meat is what's important right now. Next, the skin was stretched out and hung up. The fat guy only now started slicing the meat, cutting it into small strips. He wondered, isn't he cutting it too thin? Then Dongwu carried that bunch of meat to the stream bank. He stuffed the meat inside the skin from earlier. Once done, they brought the finished product back to the cave. He thought to himself, I understand what this is. Probably dried meat, jerky. Dongwu realized, that's right. We have to save the rest or it will spoil. He silently praised. This guy is smarter than I thought. Dongwu asked himself, is he really a primitive man? Back at the cave, he happily bit into a piece of meat. The fat guy also dined with him. The scene was extremely harmonious and warm. Late at night, he looked up at the starry sky and teared up. Dongwu muttered to himself. What's wrong that makes him go outside every night? Crying again? He looks like that, but has a weak soul. When finding him, he saw the fat guy trembling in front of the drawing of a family. He seemed to be saying that he missed them very much. Looking at the drawing, the fat guy became even more emotional. Dongwu gently patted him while comforting, don't cry. Maybe they are still alive. After a while, he managed to coax him to go rest. Dongwoo smiled, that's right. Don't think negative thoughts anymore. Seeing the fat guy happy again, he was satisfied. Correct, don't wear such a heavy face. Another night slowly passed. Dongwoo carved another mark on the stone wall to count the passing days. The next day, in the peaceful setting, he bathed in the stream while the uncle was washing clothes by the bank. However, Dongwoo felt bored. Something like, is this okay? A symbol mark. Another day added on the cliff wall. The fat guy was busy, working with the skin harvested the day before. And he still asked himself, is it okay? Dongwoo recalled earlier standing on a high-rise building. If I stop, I will fall down there. This world is like that. In his heart, he silently screamed. Me right now, it's like I'm completely frozen. And reminded himself, now is not the time to enjoy, I can't do this. As the number of days recorded on the wall increased, Dongwoo was shocked. Really, how many days have I been here? He thought in astonishment, 7 days? In this cave? Besides that, Dongwoo remembered more, counting the time outside the cave. It's been over 10 days, hasn't it? He worried about the upcoming lawsuit. If he kept getting stuck here, the things he prepared would go to waste. So Dongwoo decided, I will practice here. I still remember clearly the things I have to say, right? Immediately, he built the image of a lawyer in prehistoric times. Dongwoo began the mock trial. He presented. The guy aside has conducted the entire reception and compensation, according to the correct legal processes and procedures. Therefore, we present the relevant contract documents as Class A evidence. The plaintiff listened attentively. Dongwoo continued citing proofs, as you have seen. The contract was executed through Representative Choi Jae-hoon. The plaintiff's assertion that they knew nothing about the contract is illogical and inconsistent. Watching him ramble on endlessly, the uncle didn't understand what the hell he was doing anymore. Suddenly Dongwoo gestured towards the fat guy to express his point. We request Mr. Jae-hoon as a witness. But he just looked back at him blankly, not understanding what was happening. Then the fat guy moved closer, making Dongwoo startle and think, oh God. What is it? Right after that, he gave a sentimental look, as if he understood everything that Dongwoo had just conveyed. Seeing that, Dongwoo didn't understand and was a bit confused. What's with that face? Unexpectedly, the fat guy pulled Dongwoo into his embrace to comfort him. Dongwoo was still bewildered to the point of helplessness, thinking, why is it like this? After the comforting, the two sat together in front of the wood stove to warm up. Suddenly, the fat guy patted Dongwoo's shoulder, as if he had something to say. Dongwoo turned to look at his face, and could only guess his thoughts. That's right, to you. I'm not lawyer Kim Dongwoo, but just a useless youngest son. Dongwoo continued his work with the fire, and he kept talking. But don't worry too much, because I'm not as useless as you think. Then Dongwoo tasted a piece of food he just cooked on the fire. But when this piece of meat entered his mouth, it caused Dongwoo shock and a strong reaction to his brain. Dongwoo spat the meat out crying and thinking, ouch, too hot. Seeing that, the fat guy turned and put his hand to his mouth to blow. Hot. Dongwoo turned around, somewhat comforted, and smiled back, even though it was a bit awkward. The next day, as the sunset was slowly descending on the cliff, Dongwoo came out of the cave. He saw the fat guy sitting at the cave entrance, as if thinking about something. Dongwoo didn't want to ask much, as if he understood partly. After that, Dongwoo gently and slowly walked over to sit next to the fat guy. Neither of them said a word, looking up together to watch the sunset. Then, when the sun went down enough to be covered by the mountain, there was a group of people carrying food somewhere. A tiger climbed on a tree branch, hiding. Watching that group, suddenly that tiger's eyes widened, as if it found its target. A man walking with that group felt a chill down his spine, as if someone was watching him. Then when that man turned around, he saw that tiger. Seeing this, it seemed to seize the opportunity and leap down, pouncing onto that man's body. It tore at him continuously, making him scream in pain. The loud noise attracted the people in the group, who startled and turned back. Quickly the tiger saw them, and with those people looking a bit appetizing, it let out a roar. It left that man behind. and slowly walked towards the others. Everyone also moved gently, because their eyes had to track every step of the tiger. Those people dropped the deer they had just hunted on the ground and slowly backed away. The tiger was getting closer, only a few steps away from that deer. Unexpectedly, that tiger didn't care about the prey, but pounced towards the person. It gnawed on each person one by one, pushing them away. The tiger was very decisive, without hesitation, biting spot after spot starting from the arm. In that space, the forest was dyed red by the aboriginal strawberry syrup. After attacking each person, it left with the deer as a trophy. And the last person was trembling. After witnessing the scene just now, he stood up, using his last bit of strength to try and crawl home. But because the wound was too severe and the strawberry syrup kept flowing continuously without being stopped, finally, unable to hold on any longer, he collapsed. In the middle of the road, the tiger, after finishing the hunt, finally returned to its home. But when it got close, it seemed to see something that made it so shocked its eyes rolled back. Its tiger cubs, completely defenseless, were dead, lying on the ground. Seeing this scene, it seemed to go insane. Having just been attacked in the eye, it roared loudly. Then many people holding weapons surrounded that tiger. Everyone fighting it was also very tough and defended continuously. One person summoned all courage to rush at that tiger. But unexpectedly, it jumped over that man and pounced towards another man. He thought it would attack someone, but surprisingly it used his shoulder to jump high. The tiger didn't care about anything, using all its strength to run away, surprising everyone. It ran through the forest, nimbly weaving through each tree. Those people didn't give up and chased after it. That tiger didn't stop. Its attacked eye was bleeding ceaselessly. When it reached a place where it wasn't chased anymore, it stopped and looked up at the stars. It let out a roar, as if to pour out all its feelings. Suddenly, it saw something in the middle of this forest. It slowly approached the cliff. Below that was a human area, being lit by a fire. Seeing that, the tiger quickly rushed down there. Having found that place, it roared as if it found a shelter. On the other side, the two were eating fruit, faces messy. Then they turned to look at each other. Seeing this scene, both found each other funny. Then Dongwu continued picking fruit to eat. The two ate voraciously, because the wild fruit was too delicious. But while eating, Dongwu saw something. Below Dongwu's feet appeared traces of strawberry syrup, coming from somewhere. Seeing Dongwu staring intently, the fat guy who was eating also noticed and turned around. The two looked down at that spot, paying attention. These traces of strawberry syrup appearing here surprised them both. Then they followed the flowing blood trail together. The fat guy saw this and turned to tell Dongwu, "Go quickly." The two quickly followed this trace of strawberry syrup. At that place, many birds were landing and flapping wings. The birds were focused, tearing at something very intently. Suddenly a large bird appeared from nowhere, kicking those other birds away. The large bird decided not to let them eat and continue tearing anymore. It decided to monopolize this body alone. Seeing this bird intently probing its prey, left the other two shocked and speechless. Witnessing that scene made the two freeze, not knowing how to react. After a moment of bewilderment, they went up to chase away the birds. "Get out! Get out!" That eagle saw them coming to disrupt and flew over, wanting to attack the fat guy. But in the very next second, it was hit until it fell to the ground. Then the two of them joined forces and successfully defeated that eagle. After the fight, the fat guy turned to look over there, looking at the man who was torn to the point of being unrecognizable. He had no other choice but to feel around and rummage through that man's body to find an identity. After searching, the fat guy could only let out a long sigh. Then he turned around, holding up that man's hand for Dongwu to see. Looking at that tribal bracelet, Dongwu also realized, "It's not our family." After that, the two helped each other dig a hole in the ground, a really big one. Once dug, they carried stones to fill the gap. They didn't forget to add a few flowers on the grave for extra tribute. Done, they raised their hands to the sky together, as a farewell to that man. Task completed. After finishing, the two returned to their own home. Those flowers they meticulously picked looked very beautiful and elegant. Unexpectedly, there were still Some birds that smelled the scent and came to explore. Suddenly one discovered a fly landing on it. This made them realize something. So they rushed in together to dig up the soil, layer by layer. Finally, walking for a while, they returned to their cave. Dwelling. Inside. The fat guy seemed to have some thoughts, staring pensively at the burning fire. Dongwoo glanced over and could see he was troubled. After a while, the fat guy couldn't contain his emotions and covered his face, surprising Dongwoo. A while later, when the noise in the cave ceased, Dongwoo was no longer awake but sleeping soundly. He took a torch to look at the ancient paintings. The fat guy looked at that painting very intently, not taking his eyes off, as if thinking something. Remembering the old story, he once shouted, "Everyone escape quickly. Run. Run fast." The people being urged to run were running while looking back. Turns out there was a tiger hungrily chasing relentlessly. Suddenly while running, a child tripped and fell on the road. A person ran over to pick up the fallen girl to escape. The tiger was blocked by a man holding a stick to let the other two escape. The girl was led away by the woman, but still crying, not wanting to go, demanding to stay. That man, while fighting, turned back and shouted loudly, "Go quickly." Remembering that made the fat guy tear up, asking himself, is she still alive? Looking back at that painting, he had a more pessimistic view, bending over trembling thinking, or is she already dead? After all that, the fat guy hurriedly packed up to leave while Dongwoo was still sleeping soundly. The next morning, when the sun crept into the cave entrance, he shook Dongwoo to wake him up. When Dongwoo was still drowsy and yawning, he was handed a strange bag. Holding the bag in hand made Dongwoo confused. What is this? Opening it to see, it turned out to be a pile of food prepared for them. After realizing, Dongwoo looked back at the fat guy with confusion. He used determined eyes to say back that, "We are going to find family." Dongwoo looked at the fat guy, feeling very confused about his actions. The fat guy stubbornly wanted Dongwoo to go with him. Dongwoo turned back to stop him. "Wait, stop." After being put down, Dongwoo asked back where to go and how to search. But the fat guy looked back understanding nothing. Seeing that, Dongwoo was helpless. So annoying. Having no purpose made Dongwoo start asking. "Here, look at this." Dongwoo drew a picture to instruct, "You and me." Then Dongwoo drew while explaining, "If we go far from here." Moreover, Dongwoo described with his face, "Dangerous and dead." The fat guy listened but still stared blankly, understanding nothing. Unexpectedly, he still continued to follow him out of helplessness. "I can't persuade this guy." Dongwoo looked for another way. "Life and death here is not a problem I need to worry about." Finally, Dongwoo had to accept everything. So what if I die? Death means returning to reality. Better to die naturally here painlessly. After a while, the sunlight shone down brightly. Dongwoo looked around this place knowing not where to go. But what is this path? Thinking about the old place Dongwoo used to go to. Are we returning to that place? Remembering that, Dongwoo looked back at the fat guy with confusion. Dongwoo saw the sun setting and wondered, is it that far? Before it seemed to take only half a day. After a very long time, they finally chose a place to rest. The fat guy started using a wooden stick to make fire. After trying for a while, fire was created and smoke blew up. He stopped and used his mouth to blow for the fire to blaze up. Then a flame slowly burned up. They started dropping wood into the fire to make it bigger. Neither said anything to the other. Because they were too tired, they just ate food. Dongwoo intently ate his food, without noticing the surroundings. Not knowing that around the forest, there were many noises. Some monkeys were acting silently in the forest. At this time, Dongwoo was drowsy and sleepy. These monkeys found it strange and peeked to watch Dongwoo sleep. Seeing two monkeys staring at him made Dongwoo startle. Screaming loudly, waking up completely. Turning around, he saw many monkeys surrounding him, which Dongwoo didn't know where they came from. Dongwoo used all his strength to shake him. That man kept urging, "Wake up. Danger." That large man finally woke up, bewilderedly staring at the monkey troop around. The monkey troop amusedly walked slowly closer to the two. Dongwoo vigilantly raised his bow and arrow, aiming at those curious monkeys. But the fat guy quickly raised his hand to stop him. He whispered, "If there are many small animals, there are no large animals." Dongwu felt as if his mind was just enlightened. He widened his eyes thinking, "That's right, having many monkeys here means there are no scary animals." Dongwu glanced over, looking at that fat man with an adoring look. As if looking at a professor. He couldn't help praising. Really smart. Having said that, the two comfortably lay down to rest and regain strength. A group of monkeys nearby felt interested in the orange bag next to them. It came over to grope and see what was inside. Dongwu felt the movement of his bag. He opened his eyes wide and quickly snatched back his bag. Frowning and shouting, "No!" Dongwu carefully hugged the bag to his chest and slowly drifted off to sleep. The next morning, he and the fat guy continued their journey. While walking in the forest, Dongwu discovered a strange creature. He sat down and gently picked it up to observe. Frowning and murmuring, "Oh, what animal is this?" Dongwu hugged it, looking at the fat guy and asked softly, "What species is this? Can I keep it? It must be lost." Suddenly he roared loudly, "Drop it!" Dongwu was bewildered, murmuring, "What? You understand what I say?" As soon as he finished speaking, others of the same species hurriedly ran over to block their path. They ceaselessly growled, looking extremely vigilant and ready to attack if the two harmed that small creature. Dongwu swallowed in fear, gently placing the small creature on the ground to let it run back to its kind. Then the two ran for their lives. That fat guy shouted while running, "If there is a young one, there will be a mother." Dongwu ran panting, boiling with frustration, thinking, "All right, I get it. You're stating the obvious so seriously." Then the two ran out to an empty lot. Under the scorching sun, behind them, those leopards were still chasing relentlessly. Dongwu worriedly looked back to check the situation, pursing his lips thinking, "I only touched lightly and let go immediately. Why are they still chasing us until now?" After escaping for a long while, he finally collapsed to the ground from exhaustion, breathing heavily, with tears in his eyes, whispering, "I can't run anymore." Sweat from his forehead kept dripping down. Dongwu regretfully bit his lip, thinking, "I made a mistake. I will return to reality. Goodbye." Dongwu gave up, standing frozen in place, lethargically raising both hands in surrender, thinking to himself, "Come on, death." Suddenly, the fat guy rushed up with a sickle to protect him, striking down the leopard that just pounced. He shouted loudly, "No!" The fellow leopard saw that and suddenly hesitated, slowly backing away. Dongwu stared blankly at the fat guy, clicking his tongue and thinking, "You didn't need to do that. I would return to reality if I died here." The aggressive leopards, remaining quietly, went behind Dongwu, waiting for an opportunity to ambush. Seeing him off guard, they immediately rushed towards him. But the fat guy swung his sickle in time, slashing at it. The others, fearing nothing, took turns pouncing on the fat guy. He skillfully spun the sickle towards them in an agile manner. Suddenly, one seized the moment while he was struggling with the others to pounce at him. Seeing that he was about to be bitten, Dongwu at this moment grabbed a stick, jumped up, and punched it to a pulp. He glanced at the fat guy, sighed, and thought, "I will return to reality. If I die, but you will really die." The two quickly understood each other, leaning back to back, charging to attack together. They fought until the sun set. The two of them finally managed to handle half of the leopard pack. Suddenly, a voice rang out from afar, "Hey!" The two looked blankly to see who was coming. That voice also attracted the leopards. They also curiously looked towards that silhouette and watched. A skinny guy holding a sickle was rushing towards them. He aggressively shouted, "I'm here." Dongwu and the fat guy were overjoyed. The skinny guy quickly swung his sickle at the leopards, hitting and screaming, "Get away!" The three quickly gathered together, facing them. The three then understood the plan, shouting out loud once, then simultaneously rushing at the leopard pack. But they didn't see them move. One of them approached its fellow that had died and sniffed it, then howled once and turned to walk away. The others saw that and quietly followed behind, leaving three bewildered faces behind. After a long while, the three of them, teary-eyed, were extremely happy, hugging each other tightly as if returning from the dead. The sky turned dark. The skinny guy gently prepared painkillers and stopped the bleeding for the fat guy. He gently applied medicine to their bite wounds. The skinny guy examined the wounds very carefully, ensuring no mistakes were made. The fat guy turned and solicitously asked Dongwoo, "Are you hurt?" Dongwoo said nothing. Just intently watched the skinny guy treating his wound. The situation reminded him of when he took care of his younger sister. He was also gentle like that. He looked at her, smiled, and said, "All done." The little girl then smiled brightly, revealing her missing teeth, looking so adorable. Afterward, the three hugged each other tightly and fell asleep together. The next morning, all three went out of the forest to hunt. Starting a fresh new day, three people gathered around a small fire. The fat guy seriously spoke up, "Let's go find our families." The other two were silent, agreeing with his opinion. The sky brightened. All three continued their journey. While resting and taking a break, the three simultaneously dipped their faces in the river to refresh. But unexpectedly, the leopards appeared. Opposite them, cold sharp eyes were watching them closely, signaling an imminent danger. They vigilantly roared. On the other side, Dongwoo and the skinny guy also raised their sickles in defense. Suddenly, thundering footsteps approached from behind. All three panic-startled and turned around, with tense eyes, staring at the danger in front. From afar, a herd of giant mammoths appeared, roaring loudly at the sky, making the scene chaotic. They slowly approached the leopards, ignoring the three of them on the side. Realizing a rare escape opportunity, the fat guy hurriedly shouted, "Let's go." The three quickly ran away from this place. In another place, the fat guy led the way to his village. He joyfully exclaimed, "We're here." But the scene before their eyes left them stunned. The peaceful village now only had ruined huts remaining. Bodies lay scattered. On every face, everyone showed shock and outrage. They rushed inside, hoping to find surviving relatives. But then the fat guy heartbreakingly hugged a skeleton on the ground, crying out, "Oh God, my wife." The skinny guy next to him was no better. He tightly hugged the body that had turned into the dry skeleton of his wife, crying in despair, "Oh my mother." While searching amidst the ruins, Dongwoo suddenly discovered a small piece of cloth nearby. Trembling, he picked it up, facing the harsh truth. It was the dry skeleton of a child. The fat guy saw it in a flash, collapsed in pain, and cried out, "My child, oh God." The pain of loss was so great it made the fat guy furious. He grabbed a rock tightly, straining himself, crying and smashing it on the ground. They then took turns hugging the bodies of their loved ones, digging graves with bare hands. Each handful of soil falling down gradually covered the rigid dry skeletons. Finally, before their eyes were 4 new graves arranged neatly. The three stood silently, having no words left, only the pent-up choke and vast emptiness in their hearts. Suddenly the skinny guy realized something. He spoke up. "There are 2 people missing here." A moment of silence passed. Then their eyes lit up with hope. Dongwoo patted the fat guy's shoulder, smiled, and said, "That's right. Not being here means they are still alive." That belief was like a new fire, kindled in hearts hardened by pain. They built the graves, placed flowers and bade farewell to the departed. When sunset fell, 3 people sat quietly by the river. Fishing rods dropped into the water, spreading the bright red evening light. No one said anything, but determination shone in their eyes. The skinny guy smiled brightly, voicing his opinion, "Run. Run and keep running out of this field. Build a house on a tree." The other 2 listened attentively to him, unable to help but marvel, while all 3 patiently fished by the river. Suddenly, a large fish was pulled up from the water on the line of the fat guy. Dongwoo nudged and pointed for the fat guy to see. He then quickly pulled the line up. Right after that, the skinny guy also panicked when his fishing line shook violently. Then another fish also leaped out of the water. Cheers followed one another, making the atmosphere seem less tense. Only Dongwoo sat watching, his heart sinking. He muttered, "Why am I the only one not catching fish?" He observed the skinny guy for a bit, then thought, "We're using the same bait. Could it be that only primitive people have special fishing skills?" The skinny guy seemed to feel Dongwoo's gaze. He understood and pulled his fishing line up for Dongwoo to see. Beneath his fishing line was a small hook. Dongwoo suddenly realized, as if a new area of knowledge had just been opened. The skinny guy graciously baited the hook for him and let him cast. Dongwoo happily followed instructions. The line dropped, the calm water reflecting the sunset. Suddenly a soft sound rang out, the water rippled. All 3 were startled and immediately grabbed the fishing rod together. The group simultaneously strained to pull, faces both tense and excited. And then a giant golden fish shot out of the water, splashing sunlight, blending with glittering water drops. Dongwoo was extremely excited as if he had just found gold. He happily thought, oh, nature is amazing. The sky turned dark. 3 people sat around the firelight. The smell of grilled fish was fragrant, but everyone's eyes were heavy. Suddenly the fat guy quietly spoke up. Don't run out of fear, we must fight. The skinnier one seriously replied softly. If we fought back, perhaps everyone would be dead already. Dongwoo was silent, saying nothing. The screams of that day echoed in his head. Run! Run fast! The sound of rain, screaming, blood splattering on faces. Firelight returned to the present. Dongwoo fidgeted, whispering, if I had done something then, would things have been different? The stream of memories of the people running for their lives that day seemed to answer him. No. The flickering firelight, surrounded by the skeletons of their loved ones. Dongwoo shook his head in frustration, pursed his lips, thinking. Come on, calm down Dongwoo. This is not reality, you have your own life. Suddenly the fat guy handed him a skewer of fish that had been grilled cooked. Hearing him call out, here, eat, Dongwoo took it, staring at the fish skewer for a long time before slowly eating it. He kept reminding himself that it's okay. This is just a dream. After finishing the fish, Dongwoo comfortably leaned back on the floor, relieved, thinking. Don't get immersed in this atmosphere and emotion. This is not reality. And this is not me, I must not get immersed. Having said that, thanks to the fat guy's hand blocking the firelight, and this warm atmosphere, easily sent Dongwoo into a deep sleep. The next morning by the stream, blending with the sounds of early morning birds, was a white-haired old man sitting listlessly, looking down at the river. He bewilderedly thought. What is this? What is it this time? Dongwoo bewilderedly stared at the old man's face that he was inhabiting. He was utterly astonished, not believing his eyes, fearfully rubbing his face, then resentfully thinking, what? Did I suddenly turn into an old man? The sky gradually turned to evening. Dongwoo sat listlessly on the ground as before, frowning tightly, confused, thinking, what is happening? Suddenly he started, waking up from the dream. Dongwoo looked blankly at the surrounding scenery, breathing heavily, thinking, a dream? Then that's lucky. He slowly crawled out of the straw hut, in a blink seeing the fat guy and skinny guy struggling, smashing rocks and chopping wood to make a raft. He sighed, thinking, what? Lucky what? Wake up, Dongwoo. You think this is lucky? You call this lucky? Wake up. A few hours later, Dongwoo walked to a nearby tree trunk, glanced at the fat guy and called out, hey, this is. The fat guy understood, immediately chopping 2 nearby trees to make poles for the raft. Dongwoo and the skinny guy took the logs onto the raft first. The fat guy cut down a few more trees, then started to get on the raft. Dongwoo saw him coming, understood and reached out to help him onto the raft. The fat guy used momentum, 1 foot stepping straight onto the raft. River water splashed. All 3 quickly left this place, drifting with the river to another place. The fat guy silently looked at the surrounding scenery, after a long while spoke up. At that time I saw 2 people crossing this river. Perhaps they went upstream. A raft rocking in the strong current, wind blowing rushing, but the eyes of all 3 were still directed forward. No one said anything. Only the sound of rhythmic paddling and crashing waves. Dongwoo silently looked into the distance, falling into thought. Not a few days of vacation or a few months, but 15 years living here to achieve that? He shook his head, pursed his lips, thinking. That's not it. It can't be like that, could it be? Dongwoo stared down at the river imagining the scene of being submerged by the water. He sighed, speculating the way to return to reality. Is jumping into the water? Amidst the peaceful scene, he suddenly stood up, eyes silently looking at the calm river surface. A moment later, he unexpectedly stepped to the edge of the raft and plunged straight into the water. The other 2 couldn't react in time, just crying out in panic. The deep blue river swallowed his figure whole, water splashing white. In the freezing water, all sounds gradually faded. Dongwoo opened his eyes looking around, everything blurry like a dream. He drowsily thought. Just like that time sinking to the river bottom and drowning. He felt the current sweeping away, the rushing water, making him unable to breathe. He gritted his teeth thinking, is this not it? He then let go of his hands, letting the water wash him away. But suddenly a strong hand grabbed his arm. The fat guy dived down and pulled him up from the vortex. Then they surfaced together, breathing heavily continuously. The fat guy and skinny guy looked at him with worry, gently patting his back. And a long while later, Dongwoo sat listlessly on the raft, looking up at the sky, letting out a breath, thinking, failed. Even this way isn't right? After the boy was rescued, all three continued on the road. A small raft drifting in the deep blue water, sunlight piercing through the canopy, creating sparkling streaks of light as if guiding the way. Finally they docked at a new land. Three people quickly started setting up camp, chopping wood and trees. Then they hunted for food, tracked water, found paths together. Dongwoo walked inside, looking up at the sky, annoyed, thinking, no. How can this be done like this? He looked at the two walking in front of him, annoyed, shouted once to attract attention. The fat guy and skinny guy simultaneously turned to look at him, tilting heads wondering what he was planning to do. Dongwoo seriously spoke, the search range is too wide. We can't find them like this. The fat guy didn't reply, just pointed forward, smiled brightly, and said, let's go. Dongwoo was furious but couldn't do anything, could only bitterly walk behind them. He angrily thought, so annoying. They don't understand what I say. The sky turned dark. The three of them found a place to stop. The whole group sat by the edge of the stream. Dongwoo tried every way to convey his wishes to them. I told you already. Doing this we won't find them. He suddenly remembered something, annoyed, scratching his head, lethargically thinking, I haven't been able to speak, nor convey any meaning. Dongwoo tiredly dropped his back to the ground. He sighed, falling into thought. Really, am I worrying about searching for their families like this? The other two quickly lay down on his two outstretched arms, one on each side. All three were silent, smiling happily and watching the night sky together. Late night. Dongwoo sat in the middle quietly chewing each piece of grilled fish, pensive eyes as if thinking about something. The other two were also silent, only the crackling sound of burning wood rang out. Suddenly he raised his head, eyes lighting up with surprise, as if just discovering something. Dongwoo raised his hand pointing in front of him. The other two quickly looked along. All three discovered a brightly burning fire nearby. The fat guy reacted first, joyfully crying out, it's fire. All three immediately sprang up, eyes directed far away, where the firelight just flashed in the dark forest. Without hesitation, they hurriedly grabbed spears and rushed through the night. Rapid footsteps mixed with the sound of tearing wind. But just as they arrived, that firelight suddenly vanished. Dongwoo frowned, disappointed, thinking, the fire disappeared. The fat guy was also disappointed, clicking his tongue and speaking, don't see anything. Three people advanced deep into the forest in the dark, moonlight piercing through leaves only enough to dimly light the path. Suddenly, the person leading stopped short. There was a dark shadow hiding high above, eyes sharp as a wild beast, hand drawing the bow, the arrow ready to fly. Dongwoo seemed to sense something. As soon as he looked up, he instantly froze. All surrounding sounds seemed to be swallowed up, leaving only the thumping of his heartbeat. Then he shouted loudly, no, and rushed forward in despair. The group of three was walking along the path. Suddenly, there was a call. Brother! Braided Hair, hanging on the tree, exclaimed in surprise. Dad! It's me! Seeing this scene, the wife widened her eyes in disbelief, and immediately reacted quickly. Here, frowning deeply and pursing her lips. The fat guy and skinny guy were earnestly overjoyed. My wife! Like a monkey, she rushed down from the tree very quickly, diving straight towards the two men opening their arms to welcome her. The wife hugged the fat guy tightly, crying bitterly. Just like that, the family of five clung to each other and burst into tears. Meanwhile, Dongwoo turned his head to notice. Braided Hair burst out, tears flowing freely, her voice trembling. Brother! Responding to that, Dongwoo just smiled gently. Just like that, the family reunited. Lighting a fire, they slept next to each other. The little girl put her hand on him, while Dongwoo, with a runny nose, looked at her, his eyes full of pensive caution. Why did I do that? I could have died. Perhaps now. I'm feeling like they are truly family. The next morning, someone's voice asked wonderingly, where are we going? And quickly came the response, home. In confusion, home? The fat guy and skinny guy took the paddling role on the river, not understanding why he grimaced and gritted his teeth to stop him. No. Turns out it was all because of Dongwoo. The fat guy was afraid he would jump. But he pushed the hand away. I get it, stop it. I won't jump into the water anymore. However, when the family returned to the village, this place was just a bloody ruin. Unlike the adults, Braided Hair was very enthusiastic and cheerful, pulling his hand and calling, "Let's run." And so, the little girl let Dongwoo chase her. Following this, he also smiled happily. In the past, he remembered Suwa toddling around calling, "Dad, catch me," then sprinting straight to another place. Dongwoo in the modern time just smiled, then swung his arms, chasing his daughter like a marathon runner. Finally, with the strength of an adult, Suwa was completely caught and lifted high, unwilling to accept it. The little girl whined and asked, "Dad, if you catch me so fast, how can we play?" Again. Then that faded away. Back to the prehistoric scene, when Dongwoo chased Braided Hair. Just as he touched the little girl, the man waved his hand, "Come here." So he obeyed and went over, looking around curiously, wondering what was there. Dongwoo was so amazed he froze. It was a whole 3 patches of newly sprouting flowers. His expression looked a bit disappointed. Then the whole family raised both hands to the sky together, welcoming the red sun slowly setting behind the tree. Small but energetic, Braided Hair asked, "Where are we going again?" The fat guy replied exactly the same, "Home," leaving the little girl speechless. Which home? To reassure Braided Hair, Dongwoo opened his hand to give a signal, somehow making the little girl reassured to follow his arm. By the road, flowers sparkled brilliantly, and amidst it was the admiration from all 3 people. He and Dongwoo pointed into the cave, proudly showing off the result. The skinny guy was probably the most shocked. His mouth formed an O, unable to close for a while. Entering inside, Braided Hair could only drag out a sound. The more special gift was the painting, painted with color on the stone wall. When the wife shined the torch on it, the little girl was also delighted, pointing and asking, "Is that me?" The image was cute and a bit clumsy. And then, after the tour, it was dark. They gathered together around the campfire. Dongwoo pinched the mouth of the grilled fish, intending to tear it. Then he reconsidered and passed the stick to Braided Hair. Just like that, they didn't say anything, but happily ate and drank by the warm fire. That scene also made a father like him teary-eyed by the fire. The cave also gradually darkened. On the other side, where small tents were distributed all around, there was a person hanging a cloth, wearing a feather circlet on his head. Slowly another hand lifted it up. In the bewildered eyes of the butcher, a reporting voice rang out, "Caught a deer, but it seems to have been attacked by a wild beast." He only uttered exactly one sound, "E." Immediately, the calm-faced one lifted the spear closer, blew a sorrowful sound, screeching, echoing throughout the whole forest. His eyes widened in shock, standing on the stone, freezing in bewilderment. Below was the subservient army. The butcher screamed resentfully. Hearing that, they rose up screaming in indignation. And then they all smeared a red liquid on their faces, swiping a line from the middle of the forehead down. Then the red-faced group set out, picking up pickaxes, preparing for battle. The butcher froze, standing motionless amidst the crowd. However, the tiger sleeping on this cliff, one ear perked up to listen to the movement. Then, right on cue, it showed signs of stretching and arching its back, heading straight up. Immediately, the view faced the group holding torches crossing the forest. The interesting part was just beginning. It bared its fangs, 2 white-yellow eyes full of ferocity. Dongwoo woke up after a long sleep. He stretched sleepily, making tears and snot flow out. In his drowsiness, Dongwoo looked around the cave, checking out everything. He touched a piece of hide. Unconsciously, a question arose in his heart. Why do they need so many hides? Dongwoo was a bit curious, holding a handful of grass in his hand, wondering, what is this grass? What is this? What exactly do they intend to do that I can't understand? Thinking of this, he couldn't help but shrug in depression. Since I can't speak, I can't ask. So annoying. A while later, in another place, the fat guy was leading the group deep into the forest. He suddenly turned back to instruct, "Wait here." The group quickly hid behind nearby bushes. The fat guy gripped a spear tightly in his hand, then took a large bone from the skinny guy. Dongwoo, witnessing that scene, frowned in confusion. He focused his attention on the deer herd, thinking, "You plan to throw the spear to catch them? That's too far." But in the very next second, The fat guy attached the bone to the spear, making him amazed. He decisively threw it towards the deer with a whoosh. The crude weapon sped forward. While the bewildered yellow deer were still grazing, a thwack sound rang out. The yellow deer was taken out before it could blink. Dongwoo's jaw dropped in admiration. Caught it. The fat guy didn't hesitate to loudly signal, "Let's go." While running, he held the bone tightly like a precious object. Inseparable. Dongwoo stared at the magical bone, wondering, "With that, you can throw further?" The fat guy quickly pulled the spear out of the deer. From afar, suddenly appeared the silhouettes of strange animals. Turns out they were hyenas. They bared sharp fangs running towards the group. Unable to react in time, they were scared stiff. But by instinct, the group quickly got into defensive positions. The hyenas, starved for days, were all drooling excessively. Dongwoo was a bit overexcited, swinging his stick continuously, challenging, "Come here." He smugly thought this time was different. "Last time there were only 3 people and we still won." Dongwoo smiled smugly, affirming, "Now we have 5 people." Not happy for long, his face suddenly went pale. Dongwoo, horrified, realized, "What? Why only 4? Unclear since when." The fat guy had crouched down to process the deer, making him astonished. "Why skin it here?" Without saying a word, he picked up the deer leg, making Dongwoo even more annoyed. "Is now the time to do that?" Not letting him have an opinion, the fat guy threw the deer leg to the hyenas. Because they had been starving for a long time, they immediately glued their eyes to the leg. Dongwoo frowned, screaming inside, "Why give all the meat to them?" Right at this moment, 2 hyenas approached, competing to sniff the leg. They quickly dragged the 2 legs away. Only then did Dongwoo laugh, realizing it was to lure them away. Seizing that opportunity, the group carefully loaded the deer onto the fat guy's back. Then they turned back to return home. Dongwoo still couldn't help feeling regretful. But wasn't that giving too much? A while later, at the familiar forest scene, a plume of black smoke rose amidst the green bushes. The group competed to devour the delicious pieces of meat. Everyone focused on eating and drinking their fill. On this side, the butcher suddenly waved his hand to signal. The native quickly received the order, blowing a very loud horn blast. The horn sound quickly echoed throughout the forest. The group received the order, immediately grabbed spears and shouted loudly. They competed, stomping hard on the ground. The group left in a long line. Time flew like a shuttle. The sky had turned to late afternoon. Dongwoo froze for a moment, staring intently at the scene before him. He asked himself, why does this guy like skin so much? Is he a skin maniac? Seeing the fat guy constantly showing off, "Look at this." In the cave, dozens of hides were dried neatly. The group competed using branches to measure Dongwoo's body, making him confused. What are they doing? A small bone was taken out by the fat guy. He skillfully slit a long line on the bone. At the same time, the wife's hands nimbly twisted 3 strands of grass. The group coordinated with each other, creating rhythmic actions. Dongwoo stared at the pile of materials, a bit bewildered. "Bone? Grass?" The fat guy suddenly shooed him away, saying loudly, "Go to sleep." Dongwoo was visibly annoyed, frowning. He sighed in depression. "Do whatever you want, what does it have to do with me? Why so curious?" Then unconsciously, he fell into a deep sleep. On this side, the group was still working diligently. Each piece of bone was carved neatly by them. In the final step, a skillful hand lifted the small bone piece up. The fat guy tensely stared at it. The wife and skinny guy were carefully cutting along the hide. A needle was quickly completed. The fat guy graciously brought it to the wife. She praised, "Good." They continued to toil, hands nimbly sewing each stitch, rhythmically and skillfully joining 2 hides. The next morning, when the sun was level with the mountain peak, the fat guy softly woke Dongwoo. "Wake up." He and braided hair were sleepy, yawning continuously. But the moment they opened their eyes, they were amazed and fully awake. The wife and skinny guy unexpectedly pulled out 2 sets of leather clothes. "Look." They eagerly dressed Dongwoo and braided hair. He clearly showed satisfaction looking at the shirt he was wearing. So they were making these clothes. Dongwoo and braided hair screamed in joy. "Really good. Good. Good." Unconsciously, he smiled radiantly. "Good." The natives walked in a long line along the mountainside. The leader was the butcher. He glared ahead. That night, the butcher stood on a high platform before all the natives. He commanded fiercely, "From tomorrow we will go hunting." The butcher claimed, "Winter is coming. We need more hides and meat." He didn't forget to hold up the skull of a beast. affirming, "And we will hunt the mother of this one." The barbaric butcher emphasized, "Husband, wife, son, daughter." He cursed scornfully. "This bitch has killed many people in our family." "Us." The butcher screamed each word full of indignation, "Must kill it." Hearing that, the natives cheered excitedly. The next morning, still in that familiar forest, the natives used wood to build tents together. Everyone coordinated smoothly. On this side, the butcher was chatting with an old man. Dongwu and Braided Hair practiced archery. In no time, 2 arrows sped through the air. Braided Hair's arrow hit the bullseye, but Dongwu's missed. The little girl jumped up cheering happily. He felt a bit touched, thinking, "Good job." Dongwu, disappointed, wondered, "Why can't I do it?" At this moment, the wife suddenly approached, corrected his posture, then encouraged, "Come on." Suddenly the skinny guy appeared, reminding, "Not like that." He constantly waved his hand, signaling, "Do it like this." Then the skinny guy bent his hand in the shape of an arrow, emphasizing, "Fly like that." Dongwu immediately got into position to shoot the bow. This time he decisively shot the arrow. With a completely new posture, the arrow sped through the air. Unstoppable. In a blink, it thwacked into the bullseye. The extended family shouted in delight. Dongwu scratched his head in embarrassment. The fat guy raised his hand, signaling, "One more time." Braided Hair also excitedly raised hers, "One more time." From afar, an arrow was suddenly drawn high. 3 natives ambushed behind the bushes. The others held spears, hiding behind the thickets. A few others hid behind rocks. The butcher suddenly raised his hand high. Then he abruptly brought his hand down with a whoosh. The natives immediately shot their bows. A volley of arrows was released, sticking straight into the wild boars. The herd of pigs was scared pale, running frantically, but not letting them escape. The natives continued throwing spears. A series of wild boars were successively taken down. Some others, though wounded, still instinctively tried to escape. The natives fiercely chased after them. In no time, the whole herd of pigs was finished off. The natives smugly carried them on their backs. Very quickly right after that, the pigs were hung neatly on tree branches. Each white thigh was placed still on the chopping block. An axe blow was struck. The thigh immediately split into 2 parts. The natives coordinated rhythmically, each with a job. In just a blink, the whole batch of delicious thighs was processed. The natives continued the hunt. One guy suddenly raised his hand to signal. A large footprint immediately appeared. He carefully used his hand to estimate the size of the footprint. Seeing that, his accomplice put on a grim face. Then they quickly dispersed around. One guy seemed to detect something and stopped short. He warily looked up at the sky. But contrary to expectations, there was nothing in the tree canopy. The tribesmen continued venturing deep into the forest. Meanwhile, back in that familiar forest, the wife, along with Dongyu and the girl with braids, were holding bows. Entering the forest. Suddenly, the wife signaled to stop immediately. She tensely pointed her hand forward. It turned out to be a rabbit. It was docilely eating young grass. Dongyu revealed a look of craving, cautiously moving forward. He raised his bow and arrow just as he had been taught. Meanwhile, on the butcher's side, a tribesman was presenting a mysterious object. It was a trace of it. Strange fragments lay neatly in the palm of his hand. The butcher widened his eyes in delight and roared, "Found it." He quickly mobilized a large number of tribesmen to follow. The butcher suddenly stopped dead. His attention focused on a giant footprint on the ground. He tensely scanned the surroundings. Suddenly, the butcher's face went blank, frozen in shock. Dongyu was still raising his bow, aiming at the rabbit. Giant footprints had appeared behind him, unbeknownst to him when. These must be the footprints of a very large monster. The white rabbit looked up vacantly towards the distance. An arrow, it was unclear from when, suddenly flew past. Unfortunately, it missed, allowing the rabbit to escape. Dongyu frowned in slight anger, "Damn it." He laboredly ran through the forest, chasing the rabbit. It was still incredibly fast, making it hard for him to catch up. Suddenly, Dongyu smiled with delight. He screamed with determination inside his head. "Today I will catch you at any cost." Meanwhile, the butcher and his subordinates were ceaselessly scouring the entire forest. Suddenly, an acorn fell unexpectedly, attracting the attention of a tribesman. He looked up, following a squirrel running on a branch. The tribesman didn't care in the slightest and continued moving forward. The tribesman reported that the tracks were lost. Hearing that, the butcher Immediately ordered, search the surrounding area. Without hesitation. They searched every nook and cranny. A fresh skeleton was immediately discovered. A tribesman carefully touched it to check. Suddenly, one of them screamed in horror. From afar, a fierce tiger suddenly pounced. One lucky tribesman blocked a bite. But very quickly. The spear couldn't hold and snapped in two. One terrified man screamed, "Run! Quick!" The tiger relentlessly chased them. The butcher gritted his teeth in fury. He fled ceaselessly in resentment. Suddenly, a tribesman blew a horn. The sound of the horn quickly echoed through the vast forest. The rabbit couldn't avoid being startled. An arrow immediately shot it down onto the grass. Dongyu gleefully held the rabbit in his hand. Caught it. He laughed happily inside. But then Dongyu unconsciously froze. What's that? He looked around in a bit of fear. Aren't they watching me? Where did everyone disappear to? On this side, the forest was continuously experiencing turmoil. The wife shouted visibly tensely, "Over there." Dongyu, unaware of anything, continued to fearfully move forward. Seeing him, the fat guy anxiously called out, "Son." Soon, the family was reunited. They embraced each other affectionately. The horn sounded again. It became more and more urgent within the vast forest. Dongyu's family quickly had their attention drawn by the horn. The fierce tiger was still urgently chasing its prey. An unlucky tribesman got bitten by it. Seeing this, the butcher was horrified and raised his hand. He roared an order, "Shoot." The tribesmen hiding in the trees immediately fired their bows. In just a blink of an eye, the tiger was attacked by dozens of arrows. But unfortunately, its thick skin blocked almost all of them. The tribesmen holding spears rushed in, disregarding life or death. They roared with high spirits. The tiger was quickly surrounded, with no way to escape. It looked at the surrounding people with a bit of fear. A tribesman suddenly blew the horn. Understanding the signal, his comrades rushed to attack with spears. The tiger, with its agile body, easily dodged. The tribesmen, refusing to lose, rushed up simultaneously. But spear after spear, the tiger still skillfully escaped. The butcher let out a loud roar. He dealt a heavy blow, wounding the tiger. It cried out miserably in momentary pain. The tribesmen seized that opportunity to continue surrounding it. From afar, Dongyu's family hurried over. The tiger gritted its teeth in resentment. It faltered. When facing the fierce attack of the crowd, the tiger knew fear. Sweat streamed down its forehead. The tiger's whole body trembled. The butcher shouted, "It's running away over there." Right at this moment, the tiger lunged towards a tribesman. The butcher timely ordered, "Get down." A volley of sharp arrows aimed straight at the tiger. The tiger suddenly twisted its body. It luckily avoided all the arrows, escaping death by a hair's breadth. The tiger ran for its life straight ahead. The butcher stubbornly screamed, "Chase it." A tribesman blew the horn without hesitation. The rest quickly rushed forward following the sound. Every single one of them held a sharp spear tightly in their hand. But this time, the tiger luckily escaped. Dongyu's extended family widened their eyes when they bumped into it. The tiger instinctively backed away warily. It looked at the people before it with fear. Dongyu's family also panted, looking at it tensely. The sky suddenly poured down torrential rain. Dongyu's family ran relentlessly through the forest. The wife and Dongyu got into position to shoot arrows. The tiger, with its quick wit, easily dodged. It continued to run for its life, rushing forward. The skinny guy quickly pulled out a familiar bone and gave it to the fat guy. The fat guy immediately manipulated it, then held the spear, intending to throw it at the tiger. He used all his strength to throw the spear forward. Dongyu's extended family. Everyone stopped in surprise. The tiger was taken down, lying motionless on the grass. They tensely ran over to check the situation. Dongyu's family shouted in joy upon successfully taking down the tiger. Dongyu couldn't help but marvel. "We caught it. But where did these wounds come from?" On the other side, a tribesman caught up and shouted, "Over here, quick." Dongyu's family stood frozen, staring wide-eyed. The butcher immediately swung his axe and rushed in. He confronted the fat guy directly. A series of his critical strikes were blocked by the fat guy. The two sides continued fighting under the rain that poured down heavily. Soon, the tribesmen caught up. and quickly surrounded their family. Dong-yu watched the surrounding situation in horror. He fearfully asked himself, who are these guys? The fat guy, refusing to give up, continued to rush forward with his spear. Unfortunately, the butcher dodged that attack. He decisively struck the fat guy's neck, a painful blow. The fat guy immediately fell headfirst onto the ground. A tribesman seized the opportunity to blow the horn. The whole group quickly appeared. Following the loud call of the leader, they swarmed out like broken ants. Dong-yu stared in horror at the scene before him. By now, the rain had stopped. Only a few drops remained on the leaves. Dong-yu's family was subdued, kneeling on the ground. The butcher glared at them. He was attracted by the wife's full figure. The butcher smirked and ordered, "Take the women away. Kill all the men." Hearing that, Dong-yu froze and gasped. In a blink, the fat guy was eliminated by a tribesman. The wife screamed in pain, "No." The skinny guy couldn't escape his bad luck and was also executed. Immediately after, it was Dong-yu's turn. Tears were already welling up in his eyes. Dong-yu squeezed his eyes shut. Gritting his teeth in bitterness, he bolted up in his familiar bed. Half awake, half asleep, he rubbed his neck. He found it a bit hard to believe, as he recalled the entire event just now. Primitive language that hadn't appeared for a long time now exploded. Dong-yu unconsciously called out, "Father." Then he burst into tears without knowing why. Dong-yu quickly put on his glasses, staring blankly into the void. He recalled the massacre scene with horror. Dong-yu found it a bit incredulous. Wondering, did I die like that and come back to reality? He turned on his phone screen. Dong-yu couldn't help but frown warily. Not much time had passed. Just like a long dream that felt like reality. That's right. A while later, the scene shifted to an office. Dong-yu was focusing on work. When suddenly, the familiar figures of the fat guy and the skinny guy appeared. He unconsciously turned his head back. But appearing before his eyes was just a hopeless empty space. Night fell, and the apartment building lights began to turn on. Dong-yu confidently presented his report. All evidence and witness testimonies prove that the plaintiff, Park Tae-gun, knew about the contract beforehand. He frowned uncomfortably for a moment. Time quickly passed to Saturday. Dong-yu was driving. But the image of the tribal family appeared again in the passenger seat. The traffic light turned red. He looked to the side again. Without knowing the reason, Dong-yu couldn't help but purse his lips in annoyance. A while later, he stopped at a park. Sue ran towards him, beaming, "Daddy." Dong-yu hugged the little girl happily. His wife crossed her arms, a bit annoyed. Sue just looks forward to the day she meets her dad. The child has been waiting for a long time. She gently reminded him, "Please spend time with our daughter. Sue is still small." The wife emphasized painfully, "She really needs her dad." Dong-yu tried to smile brightly, patted the girl's head, and replied, "All right, I'll try." Very quickly right after that, the two of them arrived at the camping site. At this place, the little girl exclaimed in excitement, "This isn't a dream, is it? I'm so happy to go camping with Daddy." Hearing that, Dong-yu also smiled. He quickly prepared the food. Unable to suppress her hunger, the girl exclaimed cravingly, "It looks so good." Dong-yu helplessly reminded her, "You're standing too close, you'll get burned." Sue cleverly asked, "Daddy, can I try grilling once?" He enthusiastically agreed. "Sure, here, hold Daddy's hand, it's sizzling." As the evening sun set, the father and daughter gathered around the fire. Dong-yu carefully blew on a sausage to cool it down. He affectionately handed it to Sue, "Here." The girl quickly ate it with a happy face. A familiar figure suddenly appeared before Dong-yu's eyes. He froze for a moment, unable to say a word. A hand suddenly placed on his head. It turned out to be the fat guy. He was patting his head soothingly. The fat guy smiled with satisfaction, praising, "Wonderful." Dong-yu's eyes looked upwards in amazement. Seeing this, Sue turned to look at him with curiosity. The little girl softly called, "Daddy," then pointed upwards, her eyes clearly showing doubt. "Why are you looking at the sky?" Hearing that, Dong-yu laughed awkwardly. He bent down to quickly grab a skewer of meat. "It's nothing, finish eating and have this one too." The girl with braids pointed her hand towards Dong-yu. She looked at him with wide eyes. "Brother, give me some too." Dong-yu immediately showed attitude, glaring at the girl with braids. Only to see Dong-yu bowing his head, clawing at his hair. In that moment, he questioned himself. "Dong-yu, what is wrong with you?" When the scene shifted to nighttime, Sue excitedly brought her hands close to the fire. She smiled radiantly, cheering in delight. "So warm." At the same time, the group of people simultaneously warmed their hands. next to the blazing fire. Witnessing that scene, Dongyu frowned. After a long while, the scene fell into silence. In a small tent, light shone inside. At this time, Dongyu gently rubbed Sue's head. He said in a low voice, "Sue, let's go to sleep now." Hearing that, the girl made an annoyed face. "I hate sleeping." At the unexpected statement, Dongyu couldn't help but feel a bit surprised. "Huh?" Right at this moment, Sue's voice trembled. "If I sleep and wake up, it will be tomorrow." Saying this, she burst into tears, wailing miserably. "But tomorrow I won't be able to see Daddy anymore." Dongyu hurriedly moved closer, trying to reassure her. "That's not true. Sue, if you want, Daddy can meet you anytime." Not stopping there, Sue cried loudly again. "Daddy is busy." Seeing this, Dongyu gently soothed her. "No, whenever Sue wants, Daddy won't be busy. Don't cry anymore." Sue took a deep breath. She quickly set a condition. "Really? You promise, okay?" Later, the tent became completely silent. Inside, Sue had fallen asleep. Dongyu was still diligently patting her. Sue slept so soundly that drool ran down. Seeing that appearance, he unconsciously smiled. After a while, Dongyu sat alone in the dark night. He scrolled quickly through the touch screen. His finger stopped at an article. After reading carefully, Dongyu frowned tightly, wondering. So the animal I saw was a smilodon? He looked up towards the distance. Mind immersed in thought. Pleistocene, Holocene? Dongyu silently asked himself. At that time, wasn't it cold with snow? Or was it just starting to get cold? Thinking of this, he shook his head in denial. Even though it looks real, it was just a dream. Why do I keep thinking about it? Then Dongyu looked up at the high sky. Amidst the starry sky, he silently told himself, "It's just a dream." Scene shifts to a city. This place is extremely modern. At the same time, Sue suddenly cried out, "Daddy." Dongyu hurriedly hugged her. He whispered in her ear, "Don't cry. I told you yesterday, didn't I?" Dongyu seriously repeated word for word. "If Sue wants, Daddy will come right away." "To meet Sue anytime." The little girl nodded slightly. "That's right, Daddy promised." As soon as he finished speaking, he stood up straight. Waving both hands vigorously towards the opposite side, Sue turned around and waved back repeatedly. Seeing that, Dongyu smiled broadly. Then the smile on his lips suddenly extinguished, replaced by a grave expression. In a flashing moment, Dongyu disappeared completely. Inside, he was diligently typing on the keyboard. Dongyu was sitting with a straight back, eyes glued to the computer screen. In a flash, the sky had turned pitch black. Meanwhile, Dongyu diligently transcribed every line of dialogue. As the witness Choi Jae-hun testified, suddenly, the phone rang. Startling him, the screen clearly showed the image of Wudong's family. He sent a message. "This is the photo I intended to show you last time. Take a look." Dongyu immediately picked up the phone. His hand gently swiped across the screen. Dongyu suddenly changed his expression. He opened his eyes wide. "This is..." In that moment, Dongyu vaguely remembered his laborious self when he was still in the tribe. He unexpectedly presented a sharp stone fragment to the fat guy. Snapping back to reality, Dongyu frowned tightly. Inside was an image of various stone tools. He immediately returned to his desk. Dongyu quickly scanned through some reports. Woolly rhinoceros, from the late Pliocene to the Pleistocene. Maximum body length 3.6 m, height. Woolly rhinoceros, true to its name, has fur to help withstand the cold in the north. Living in the tropical forests of Southeast Asia. Pachycracuta from the late Pliocene. The largest hyena species in Earth's history. If standing upright, just the shoulder height is similar to modern hyenas. Fossils found in China. Mammothus from prehistoric times to early historical times. Belongs to Elephantidae. The name mammoth originates from the Ural language, so it is a relative of the elephant. African elephant today. Then after a while, he gently closed the computer. His face briefly looked serious. Dongyu questioned himself with dissatisfaction. What the hell am I doing? And then what? In his head, a series of questions arose. If those stones are real artifacts, then what? Report it for the public interest? Thinking of this, Dongyu gritted his teeth. What do you intend to do? The next morning, the boss's voice rang out, "Sit down." He laughed teasingly. "This isn't the army, don't be so stiff." A moment later, the boss asked solemnly. "Are preparations going well?" Wudong immediately leaned over. "Boss, Dongyu unexpectedly stopped him. "Yes." He answered quickly, his voice resonating. "We have prepared very thoroughly." There are no issues. Hearing that, the boss looked satisfied. Very good, the law firm expects a lot from this lawsuit. He turned to remind them. If it ends well, there will definitely be a worthy bonus. Wudong and Dongyu could only bow and listen. Scene shifts to the local court. At this time, the two walked out of the office together. Suddenly he turned to look back. Dongyu seemed to see the tribal group approaching. Follow me. Wudong beside him looked curiously. What's wrong? Forgot something? Dongyu didn't answer. He clutched his head, gritting his teeth. Damn it. Noticing Dongyu's unsightly expression, Wudong asked worriedly. Forgot something? He didn't answer. Lips pressed tight with gravity. Wudong only saw Dongyu's eyebrows knit tightly together forever. A while later, he finally reacted. It's nothing. The next morning. From the sacred position, the Supreme Court judge solemnly declared. Case 2024 begins. The trial. He continued in a low but majestic voice. This case involves the plaintiff, Mr. Park Tae-gun. The defendant is Gaia Company in Gongsan City. Simjeon Construction Group. The judge stared at the indictment. He continued adding. And the Future Data Center Development Unit. Regarding the invalidation of land ownership transfer. This is a civil lawsuit. Hearing this, Tae-gun shouted dissatisfiedly. Do you know what my house means? Gongsan citizen. Park Tae-gun, 76 years old. The old man questioned angrily. This is my ancestors' home. 5 generations have lived here. So many memories and traditions attached. The Gaia representative turned to ask. Is that old house a National Heritage Site? The Simjeon Group representative shook his head in denial. No, it's just an old house. He frowned briefly then asked more. The land survey is finished, right? The Gongsan City representative nodded quickly. Yes, that's right. If nothing changes then. I promised my wife to live peacefully here until death. On this side, Tae-gun looked towards the judge. The old man emphasized every word with a grit in his voice. I never wanted to sell the house. Meanwhile, the boss sat nonchalantly below, observing the situation. After a while, inside courtroom number 7. The lawyer stood up properly. He declared in a serious voice. Your Honor, I would like to summon a witness. Village head Choi Jae-hun will serve as a witness. As soon as the words were spoken, Wudong and Dongyu were almost stunned. He was momentarily confused. Leaning his body closer quickly. Did you hear anything? That's our witness. He shook his head in confusion. No, Dongyu pressed his lips tight. Then silently turned his head to look back. Next to him was the fat guy, no stranger. At the same time, Wudong reassured himself. They summoned him too. It should be fine, right? Noticing the unusual situation, the boss showed a confused expression. Moments later, the lawyer stood right in front of Jae-hun. He called out loud seriously, May I ask the witness? The lawyer delivered each word clearly and firmly. Did you say anything to the plaintiff, Park Tae-gun, about land registration procedures? Were you authorized? At the unexpected question, Jae-hun looked clueless. Authorized? Wudong hurriedly cut in. He is talking about paperwork like authorization registration. Hearing that, Jae-hun responded quickly. Because paperwork is complex. So I helped with the normal procedures. The lawyer immediately cut in, emphasizing his words. But that is just normal paperwork. It doesn't mean you were authorized. Continuing, he questioned sternly. So do you think you were authorized? Do you have a power of attorney? Jae-hun was briefly silent, pressing his lips tight. Right at this moment, Dongyu slammed the table. He affirmed firmly, yes. Dongyu immediately turned to present. Your Honor, the submitted file contains a power of attorney for this. The judge slowly flipped through the file. Then he looked suspiciously towards Dongyu. It's not there. Hearing that, his face showed extreme panic. Dongyu hurriedly bowed, flipping through the stack of papers on the table. I submitted it though. Then suddenly the pile of papers fell heavily to the ground. Seeing this, the boss looked annoyed. What are you doing? At the same time, Dongyu hesitantly picked up the papers. Stammering. Sorry, Your Honor. Only seeing him press his lips tight. Gritting out the words, damn it. The fat guy approached from behind. He asked worriedly, Are you okay, son? Dongyu turned and shouted without respect. Don't interfere. Suddenly the person in front changed, it was Wudong. After the trial ended, the boss bowed to greet them. He spoke hesitantly. The case isn't over at the preliminary round. Next time we will prepare better. Before leaving, the Gaia representative didn't forget to remind. Alright, please try hard. The group was discussing continuously. The Gaia representative questioned dissatisfiedly. Can you do this? Change lawyers. The other person hesitated. I will consider it. On this side, the boss turned around. Did you actually prepare thoroughly? He continued with a cold tone. If we lose, despite working hard, I could understand. Saying this, the boss pointed his finger straight at Dong Yu's face. But losing due to sloppiness is unacceptable. Not stopping there, he frowned and reminded. This is the second incident today. Next time, prepare meticulously. Finished speaking, the boss turned to leave. The other two bowed. Right at this moment, he suddenly turned back. Though I mentioned the reward for winning. The boss frowned tightly. He said sternly. But if the case's progress affects the company's reputation, there will be a corresponding penalty. Hearing this, Dong Yu could only bow. Yes, I understand. At the psychiatric clinic. Yes, inside the female doctor examined him intently. So you saw people who have passed away? Dong Yu confirmed honestly. Yes, but it was a prehistoric family in a dream. She was momentarily confused, then repeated the answer. Prehistoric family? Immediately after, he hurriedly waved his hands to illustrate. After a while, the female doctor clapped her hands in satisfaction. The details and situation are very specific. She asked worriedly. Perhaps those realistic dreams reflect your emotions. Is that right? Dong Yu repeated unconsciously, emotions? The female doctor continued in a gentle tone. Perhaps it is a manifestation of guilt for not being able to protect your family. Yes. Dong Yu was already helpless, wasn't he? Looking at her, so what should I do? The female doctor instructed seriously. Next time, think more positively in the dream. Try finding a solution. She reminded him seriously. So you won't have regrets like now. Dong Yu didn't reply, he remained silent. Then Dong Yu looked up at her, there's a next time? The female doctor paused for a moment then replied. That depends on you. Dong Yu lay on his bed, eyes glued to the ceiling. In that moment, he vaguely remembered the female doctor's words. Basically, you are the type who cherishes family. She continued adding. But divorced and carrying a heavy sense of guilt. The scene briefly changed. Inside was a perfect family. Dong Yu was happily hugging Sue. Beside him was his wife. Scene shifts to the tribal group. Everyone smiling radiantly. Returning to reality, Dong Yu was so helpless he burst into tears. Then he soon fell asleep. After sobbing for a while, Dong Yu's sleeping face was extremely peaceful. Then suddenly he opened his eyes wide. Right in front of him, faces both strange and familiar struck his vision. Mophead immediately turned to report. Sister, he's awake. Curry stared wide-eyed at Dong Yu. Lips moving, he's really awake. Contrary to the group, he was completely bewildered. A while later, Dong Yu finally composed himself. He sat up in confusion. Seeing this, Mophead hid behind Curry in fear. The boy spoke slowly. Came back to life. Hearing that, Bangs looked annoyed. Idiot. Yasaki didn't come back to life, he just woke up. On this side, Dong Yu stared at them wide-eyed. He couldn't help but feel a bit surprised. What is this? Who are these kids? Then Dong Yu looked up, a question mark placed in his heart. Where is this? He crawled towards the tent, touching the fabric. Is this the entrance? Why is it so low? Seeing this, Curry warned sternly. She screamed loudly, don't open it. Before he could react, Dong Yu opened the door. White snow rushed in like a storm. The scene was covered by a thin layer of snow. Right at this moment, Dong Yu crawled out without hesitation. Curry carefully draped a coat over him, it's very cold. On this side, Bangs called after the kids, don't go too far. At the same time, Dong Yu stared at himself at the bottom of the lake. Thinking to himself, just like that time, he unconsciously remembered a bloody scene. In that moment, the knife tip had almost touched Dong Yu. Scared, he just closed his eyes tight waiting for death. Returning to reality, Dong Yu was full of questions. I didn't die then? He looked towards Curry, placing a doubt in his heart. Why am I here? Curry looked up at Dong Yu with a blank face. He scratched his head in frustration, screaming inside. Can't speak, exactly like that time. After a while, Dong Yu seriously pointed at himself. He waved his hands wildly, mouth moving, why? Then Dong Yu pointed down at where he was standing. Again. He signaled diligently, mouth moving ceaselessly. Come here? Meanwhile, Curry finally reacted. She leaned closer, you asked why you're here? Although not understanding, Dong Yu nodded seriously. Seeing that, Curry was silent for a long time, eyes glued to him. She suddenly remembered a vision. Seeing the group diligently preparing something. Curry gripped the weapon in her hand, shouting eagerly. I want to go hunting too. The group, without prompting, shouted in unison. No, hearing that, Curry showed dissatisfaction. She stuck her chin up. After a while, the kids ran around wildly. Mouths ceaselessly calling loud, Sister. Sister. At this time, Curry sat huddled under a tree. Seeing this, Mophead's group smiled. Simultaneously inviting. Let's play together. She didn't hesitate to wave them away coldly. Seeing that, the kids burst into tears simultaneously. They took turns whining. Sister won't play with us? Curry, helpless, could only stand up and follow the kids. She looked towards a corner of the forest. Mouth moving. I want to try hunting too. Curry turned back to look. The kids were laughing happily. Later, they brought out 4 different leaves. Curry pushed the leaf tip into the water. She turned to announce the rules. Whose leaf goes down first wins. The leaves flowed along the water current. Mophead chased excitedly, mine is faster. Bangs cut in, no, behind. Curry chased hard, she screamed. Run slower. From the opposite side. The image of kids running in a line appeared clearly. Suddenly they stopped, 4 pairs of eyes looking at one point. Curry peeked inside, what is it? Under the water, Dongyu was floating. The kids hurriedly ran away. Mouths ceaselessly screaming. Mom! Mophead quickly shouted, there's a person. At the same time, the group was totally confused. Eyes looking at them in panic. On the ground, Dongyu sank deep into a coma. The group surrounded him. As if watching a strange creature. In a flash, snow fell. The whole scene was covered in white snow. Inside. The kids simultaneously peeked and staring at him. Dongyu remained motionless, his face a bit gray. Then another night passed, the snow hadn't stopped falling. The adults intently watched Dongyu's movements. In a flash, it was the next morning. The snow showed signs of stopping. The kids and Curry moved closer to him. One of them whispered. Dead? Another covered for him, no, still alive. After a while. Mophead and Fat were still intently watching Dongyu. But right at this moment, he opened his eyes wide. Right when they saw Dongyu wake up. The kids almost froze. Returning to reality. Dongyu and Curry sat by a lake. His heart couldn't help but feel a bit confused. Did I float down the river, stay in a coma, then wake up? Dongyu unconsciously remembered his happy appearance. With the fat guy's family. He frowned tightly, a guess rising. So it continues from that moment? Then suddenly a man appeared calling loudly. Kids, father is back. Dongyu sat silently beside the fire. The space was strangely quiet. No one said a word to anyone. Seeing this, Dongyu turned to look at the child beside him. Bunface immediately spoke. Hand placed gently on his shoulder. What is your name? Before the greeting, Dongyu was momentarily silent. He suddenly remembered the Dongyu of that time. Loudly declaring, my name is Kim Dongyu. The classmate next to him handed a notebook closer. Dongyu. Ah, help me with this. Since when did everyone call his name loud? Dongyu, Kim Dongyu. Dongyu, Dongyu, Mr. Kim Dongyu. When grown up, Dongyu seriously presented a business card, I am lawyer. Kim Dongyu, at the same time, he scratched his head wildly. No, not like that. He didn't ask my real name. Dongyu couldn't help but feel a bit confused. But asked my name in this world. What is my name? Dongyu's face became thoughtful and pondering. What is my name? At that time, the fat guy called loudly, let's go. Another person also quickly spoke up. Look. Braids ran happily to hold Dongyu's hand tight. Brother. Remembering everything, he scratched his head thoughtfully. Come to think of it, I was never called by name. His face gradually became unsightly. Or maybe here they don't need to call names? On the other side. The crowd surrounding continuously discussed with each other. What? No name? Someone has no real name? There is. Curry suddenly put her hand on his head. And announced to everyone. This boy can't speak. Hearing that, he abruptly looked up at her. Making a strange sound. This made her extremely curious to ask. Do we have names? While she still didn't understand what was happening, Dongyu abruptly stood up. Curry calmly put her hand on her chest introducing. My name is Winter. Simultaneously, she also conveniently introduced the 3 others. Sun, Moon, Star. Continuously, the characters here were mentioned by her. Father, uncle, aunt. Dongyu focused on listening to her words. Morning, autumn, big eyes. After introducing everyone's names briefly, Curry turned back to look at him. You were found in the river. Her face gradually became excited as she proposed. Name is River, okay? Hearing this name, Dongyu silently thought about it. The guys in the back also constantly muttered the name. Curry immediately looked at Dongyu with expectant eyes. Is it okay? He was still silently thinking, name is River? Then a smile gradually appeared on his face. It's good. For some time after that, everyone comfortably ate pieces of grilled meat. Everyone laughed and joked with each other very happily. This warm scene also made Dongyu feel a bit warmed inside. Time shifted to the next morning. A call rang out. Everyone was excitedly going out to the river to wash their faces. The boy happily turned to chat with his friend. So cold. Dongyu also bent down to get water to wash his face. It really is very cold. Time passed, the sun rose high. All the children in this tribe started playing hide and seek. Don't go too far. After hearing the signal, they ran in many different directions. All these children tried not to let the loser catch them. Everyone's face was happily waiting. There was even a boy who laughed loudly, running very fast towards the front. After finishing counting, Curry turned back and asked everyone in surprise, "Search now?" She quickly discovered each person's spot. Hiding there, huh? The boy smiled sheepishly, as if he didn't anticipate this. A while later, two boys on the other side were also constantly running away. Curry's eyes very agilely discovered everyone's hiding place. Found you. The number of caught people was increasing. She excitedly pointed at each person, found you. At the same time, Dongyu on one side also helped her find them. Just like that, the boring hours finally passed. Only a few people were left hiding. Curry constantly searched around. She even went into different huts. Not here either. Big Eyes. This time they walked while calling out, Big Eyes. The bright sunlight brought warmth to this place. The boy Mophead's face became bewildered when seeing the scene before his eyes. In front of the boy was a wild wolf silently approaching. Its face looked extremely scary. This made Mophead's eyes well up with tears, as if about to cry. Suddenly, the words of an elder appeared in the boy's memory. If you meet a wolf, do not run. The elder's face became extremely grave. As he added, if you run, it will chase, it will bite you. At that time, all the children listening to this became extremely bewildered. In Mophead's eyes, there was a certain disbelief glistening. Back to reality. The wolf was still staring straight ahead. Right at this moment, a voice rang out from behind. Big Eyes. Seizing the opportunity, the wolf also shifted its target. Seeing the situation was not good, the boy hurriedly stood up. Tears and snot flowing uncontrollably. But the boy still tried to keep himself very calm. Right at this moment, Dongyu pointed forward and called out. It seemed he noticed Mophead on one side. As Curry was about to step towards this place, suddenly, Bangs put her hand out to stop her. Sister. It seemed they had noticed the ferocious wolf on the side. Look, there's a wolf. Right at this moment, Dongyu slowly took steps forward. Are you going? This action of his confused Curry greatly. He nodded firmly. His eyes had now become extremely determined. I will save the child. Dongyu ran very fast towards the wolf without hesitation. He didn't forget to make an extremely scary face to scare it. This scene caused the wolf present there to freeze for a moment. He still didn't know the level of danger, and frowned constantly. He even approached Mophead, trying to save the boy. Because of anger, the wolf this time lunged directly towards the two of them. This made him freeze for a moment. Suddenly a scream rang out, making the wolf pay attention once again. This time it turned its head and chose to give up. It turned out the village elder had just saved both of them. Mophead hurriedly ran towards the elder, crying ceaselessly, Grandpa. The elder just gently rubbed the boy's head as if comforting him. The elder's eyes contained affection as he praised, Good job. Amidst the white snowy landscape, the village elder's voice rang out warmly. Wolves don't easily attack humans. The elder continued to speak what he knew to the children. But if you invade their territory, you might get attacked. The more he thought, the more confused the elder felt. But that wasn't wolf territory. Why was it there? The village elder quickly turned his head, glancing in another direction. He sighed thoughtfully, wondering, strange. The small children around this place immediately did the same. Strange. Fat at one side still felt confused. What is strange? The scene shifts to a place later. In the snowy forest, the wolves were still constantly teasing each other. It seemed this pack of wolves had become very close. Even on one side, there was a wolf preparing to be pregnant. Its body was not in a very good condition, making it extremely tired. Such a big belly. Its children were about to be born. The other wolves quickly stood up sniffing targets around. Realizing something, they all ran in one direction. On the high cliff, they looked to see what was happening. It turned out this was the home of a pack of hyenas. Suddenly a small stone fell from above. This made the hyena alert, looking up towards the front. But the wolves had already escaped. On this side they ran very fast towards the front, as if finding a way to somewhere. Scene shifts to the village. Snow covered the entire place. Curry stubbornly said loudly, announcing, "I'm going too." This surprised the villagers, turning back to look at her. After a period of thinking, the woman smiled and nodded. "Okay. Let's all go." Her face became worried as she reminded, "But don't go too far, especially you." This made Mophead startle slightly, and so the children followed the adults, walking slowly. On the mountain, the cabbages had all sprouted. The hardworking women at this place gathered cabbages into bags. Even the children were working hard at their jobs. Curry didn't forget to hold a withered leaf forward. "Mom." Seeing this, the woman shook her head, explaining, "That can't be eaten." Dong Yu thoughtfully looked at the vegetable in his hand. The more he thought, the more confused he felt. "Is this cabbage? Isn't it?" Suddenly a strange smile appeared on his face. "Even though it's winter, there are still green things." Realizing something was wrong, he turned his head to look to the side. "What is that?" The giant rhinos were still grazing at this place. Time goes back to before, when Dong Yu constantly opened on the computer screen information about rhino species displayed on it. Back to reality. Dong Yu immediately recognized this huge species as the woolly rhinoceros. His face bloomed with an extremely happy smile. "It really exists?" He quickly stood up, signaling to the woman on one side. Noticing his curiosity, Bangs laughed. "Realized it's a rhino?" She didn't forget to advise him a few more words. "Just don't get close to them." A while later, the children constantly handed forward, this." Parents smiled and patted their sons' heads. "It's edible." Time passed. The sunlight gradually became harsher. The elder, standing outside silently thinking. The elder's hand quickly examined the dry branches. His face couldn't hide the surprise. Strange. At the same time, the cracks in the ice caught his attention quickly. It seemed the village elder had noticed something was wrong. Strange. On this side, the villagers were gathering to examine footprints on the ground. They took out some kind of herbal powder and sprinkled it. Immediately after, they discussed with each other eagerly. "So the animals won't detect us. We must go with the wind direction." A group quickly took steps up the mountain. Decisive footsteps slowly moving forward. Feeling something was wrong, the leader quickly raised his hand to remind, "Slow down." Everyone hurriedly lowered their heads, ready in position. Their faces became extremely happy. Chatting. "Finally going hunting. Your first time hunting?" The leader continued to signal with his hand. The rest hurriedly lay down, keeping distance. At the same time, the deer, eating and drinking at this place, caught the attention of the group. The man laughed softly, approaching and speaking. "That's right." The leader quickly signaled for everyone to move forward. "Attack." Everyone crawled closer, keeping distance without hesitation. Their faces bloomed with extremely happy smiles. Suddenly, the man right next to him waved his hand to signal. "Slow down." The deer here were still eating deliciously. They didn't know that danger was gradually approaching. The man also readied his hunting tools. All three quickly entered the state of preparing for battle. Realizing something was wrong, the leader quickly ordered his teammates, "Get a little closer." And so, all three were stepping forward. But while things were happening according to plan, suddenly Curly Hair rushed straight forward. Without hesitation, he immediately turned, preparing to act. And so, he threw his stick straight forward. The strange noise quickly attracted the attention of the two deer. On one side they hurriedly turned and ran very fast towards the back. Seeing these deer completely escape made Curly Hair freeze for a moment. The teammates on the side became extremely angry and called out, "Hey!" Just thinking about the prey escaping made everyone extremely angry. They constantly looked at Curly Hair, criticizing, "Why didn't you wait?" He sighed and spoke his thoughts. If I didn't catch it, I would have lost it. Hearing this, Spikehead couldn't take it anymore. And spoke up to criticize. Everyone come look at this. He quickly spoke with an annoyed tone. Everything in the world is like that. He didn't forget to announce. You have to wait to get it. This time everyone continued on the hunting trip. Not detecting the life of creatures around here made everyone a bit helpless. None? Everyone even signaled back to each other repeatedly. None. Don't see any. This made Spikehead annoyed, sighing and complaining. Seems they realized and all ran away. What do we do now? Curly hair. Hearing that, couldn't hide the disappointment on his face. Huh? So we catch nothing and go back empty-handed? After thinking for a short time, Spikehead quickly decided. If there are no deer, catch something else. Everyone seemed to not have given up yet. There are still things to eat here. A while later, everyone tried to push a large log forward. Finally, the log was successfully flipped over. Looking at the empty ground made everyone a bit confused. Nothing? Spikehead quickly approached and suggested. Dig the soil up and see. Everyone quickly followed. And constantly dug the soil. Everyone's face immediately became radiant. There are some. The worms were still wiggling in their hands. The time after that was the time. The family members returned. Father. Spikehead constantly rubbed his son's heads. Yeah. Realizing something wasn't right. Curry was momentarily disappointed. Huh, where are the deer? Bangs on one side also added in. No deer. Curly hair quickly pulled something out of his bag. Something instead of deer, we have this. He excitedly held the worm. In front of everyone. The time after that. Everyone prepared to enjoy the meal. The pebbles were placed near the fire. The hardworking women constantly processed the vegetables. The plump woman didn't forget to fix the bag. Very firmly. Dongyu carefully held the heated pebbles. Near the bag. Curry right next to him reminded. It's hot, be careful. The hot pebbles finally were placed around this bag. Seeing that, Bangs quickly signaled. A little more. And so everyone constantly pushed the hot pebbles towards the vegetable bag. Steam rose up thickly around this place. A while later, the cabbage was cooked under this unique cooking method. Let's eat. Bangs picked up a piece of cabbage and gave it to Fat, advising, it's hot. Be careful. Everyone received the cabbage, eating extremely excitedly. On this side, the elder kept saying, strange. Everyone turned back in surprise to look at the elder. What is it? His eyes gradually became suspicious, voicing his doubt. Winter just keeps lasting. Spikehead heard that and sighed, speaking up. Every year is like that. Spring is probably coming soon. But it seemed the elder still didn't listen. No, the time for spring to come has long passed. The more he spoke, the more suspicious he became. Strange. Even Mophead on one side laughed, chatting with his friend. Strange, he is strange. Dongyu heard these words and silently thought. Winter isn't ending? Time goes back to before. Dongyu constantly sat at the computer screen, which recorded various information about prehistoric times. The text on the computer screen made Dongyu suddenly notice, Ice Age. He suddenly shouted in an extremely peculiar way. Fearing that everyone still didn't understand, Dongyu didn't forget to act it out, making everyone incredulously discuss, what is it? What's wrong? Only Dongyu was still helpless. This winter will probably last forever. His face gradually became unsightly. Damn it. I keep talking but they don't understand. Curry right next to him also spoke up in surprise. What's happening? He quickly turned back, looking at her as if seeing a hope. Then he hurriedly approached, placing his hands on her. It seemed she was also realizing something, and constantly asked back, as if wanting to be sure. I came in winter. You just stay. They're acting out what you know. Continue? Finally she understood his words. Winter continues. But it seemed everyone here didn't believe him, but on the contrary discussed delightfully. When winter passes, spring comes. What is that? So absurd. Really strange. Suddenly the elder became extremely angry, and said loudly, he makes sense. The elder continued to speak what he had observed. Look outside, winter has lasted already, hasn't it? Everyone in the village was silent in thought. They probably didn't know whether to believe or not. Snow was falling much harder. It seemed everything could freeze. Frozen under this cold weather. While everyone was still sleeping, A cold wind suddenly blew in. Mophead quickly hugged Dongyu tight and complained. It's so cold. Dongyu still couldn't sleep. He lay there quietly, tired and depressed. He unconsciously recalled everything from before. Whether it was reality or a dream like reality. Back then, ferocious tigers constantly attacked everyone around. Because I wasn't proactive. And that was the worst ending? Dongyu walked while always falling into self-blame. He sighed wearily, unable to hide the tears on his face. So I couldn't do anything. Dongyu continued to recall the incident. When everyone was kidnapped by the blue-faced men, some had to depart pitifully. Because of that, everyone had to die like that. This made Dongyu recall memories of his past life. The wind blew past. His wife and child disappeared completely just like that. Back to reality. The tears on his face flowed down ceaselessly. Curry suddenly stood up, sat looking at him with a bewildered face. Why are you crying? Dongyu hurriedly wiped the tears from his face. He didn't know how to explain it for her to understand. How could a kid understand my unspeakable heart? But it seemed she had guessed something. Crying because you miss your family? At this moment, Dongyu slowly turned to look at her with a face full of bewilderment. Huh? Dongyu continued to stare at the girl right in front of him. Thoughts constantly appeared in his head. How can this kid understand my heart so well? He even felt suspicious. Is it because this is a dream? He sat there holding Curry's hand. Or does this kid really understand me so deeply? Memories of the past life returned. Dongyu remembered his wife and child. I miss my real-life family. But then he also recalled the happy scenes. When living with everyone here. The family in this dream too, but the truth is always harsh, I can't meet them. As if understanding Dongyu's feelings, Curry asked in surprise. Is your family all dead? He suddenly fell silent, seeming not to know how to explain. He recalled the scene that shouldn't be remembered from back then. Dongyu's eyes became heavy with sadness. He hurriedly shook his head repeatedly, as if thinking of something. Curry smiled, approached and suggested, no? Then go find them. This information made him freeze for a moment. Huh? He unconsciously thought of a bad scene. There will be many pitiful people who must die because of this action. And the ill-fated woman lost was Curry. Dongyu hurriedly signaled with a serious face, no. This action of his made her feel extremely confused. He even comforted himself. Maybe they are still alive somewhere. Not far away. Outside, the cold snowstorm was still pouring down. But not now. A gentle smile appeared on Curry's lips, comforting him. Don't be so sad. We will be your family. She gently lay down right next to Dongyu. This made him feel more reassured, and slowly closed his eyes, falling asleep. Time gradually shifted to the next morning. At this place, everyone was gathered together there. The village elder quickly spoke his thoughts. We must prepare more for winter. Spike had heard that and didn't forget to announce. Spring will come, father. This made the elder extremely angry, and constantly criticized him. Spring will eventually come. Someday. But what if it never comes? That's what I mean. Everyone present there could only listen in silence. Handsome guy on the side felt extremely confused and asked, then what should we prepare now? The village elder quickly pointed his hand towards Dongyu. Curry right next to him also turned to announce. You say it. This startled him a bit. Me? Remembering something important. He quickly expressed it for everyone to understand. Curry sitting right next to him, seeing this action, was bewildered. Food. Everyone surprisingly turned to look at each other. Isn't that obvious? So Dongyu stood up again to act it out, making Curry feel a bit amused. Everyone around here was stirred up by the atmosphere. Curry and the children quickly stood up, imitating his actions. A lot. Time passed, the scene shifted outside. Handsome guy constantly used an axe to chop trees. Spike head on the side was still constantly directing. It's falling. After a period of effort, finally, the large tree fell forward. The large people in the village quickly carried the wooden logs back to the spot, while the smaller ones only held small branches. Everyone worked extremely enthusiastically. Dongyu and Curry didn't sit idly either, but started working. Looking at the leaves in front of her, she happily picked it up and announced, "This looks edible." The mother quickly rubbed both their heads and praised. "Good job. Just like that, everyone was still happily harvesting trees together to prepare for winter. Meanwhile, the hunters also got into position. Flatface quickly signaled everyone with his hand. Slowly, this made curly hair on the side extremely worried. After seeing the opportunity had come, Flatface shouted loudly, "Right now." This time, the spears were thrown straight forward. Luckily, it hit that poor deer. Everyone was extremely happy. Bringing the spoils back, the amount of food acquired became more and more. Everyone's meals also gradually became richer. Time after that, as usual, the men continued to go hunting. Wood gathered to withstand the winter was also prepared more and more. It seemed Curly Hair and Spikehead were getting more familiar with hunting and catching. The food earned piled up more and more. Time gradually shifted to late night at this place. Then another day passed, a new day began. Mophead and the mischievous children curiously stepped inside. A food paradise appeared right before their eyes. This made all three children laugh loudly with delight. So much. Ending a long day, the sky poured white snow again. It seemed this winter was just as Dongyu predicted. This place was flooded with cold snow. Dongyu, together with everyone, slowly looked up at the sky. The sky was pitch black. White snowflakes fell ceaselessly. At the same time, on this side, the wolf was gradually entering labor. Its body trembled from excessive pain. This made the alpha wolf become extremely worried. It quickly raised its head to the sky and let out an extremely strange howl. The alpha wolf and the other wolves ran very fast towards the front. In its eyes, there was some determination. The scene shifts to this side. The hyenas were still sleeping soundly in the cold winter. Sensing something was wrong, the alpha hyena quickly raised its head. Looking forward, it hurriedly moved forward to check the situation right away. At this moment, the wolves suddenly rushed in. The hyena hadn't reacted yet. When it was bitten straight in the neck by the alpha wolf, it fell to the ground in pain, as if ending its life. At the same time, the loud commotion also made the other hyenas quickly stand up. The wolf side was extremely ferocious, constantly growling. Both sides rushed directly into battle without hesitation. These hyenas also refused to be outdone, constantly fighting back. Suddenly, the alpha wolf looked up to the sky and howled. The remaining wolves also constantly rushed in, attacking the hyenas more fiercely. Finally, after only a period of time, most of the hyenas were defeated. White snow ceaselessly fell on this place. A place with no peace at all. Flooded with cold snow again. On this side, the one-eared wolf was still standing still there. It tried to guard the female wolf, preparing for labor. The female wolf's whole body trembled from excessive pain. Noticing a familiar sound ringing out made one ear startle in surprise. It quickly went ahead, opening the way for the trembling female wolf to move forward. At the same time, the alpha white wolf also brought back small hyenas. They quickly put those hyenas aside. At the same time, black crows, smelling blood, also gradually approached. More and more black crows appeared. Once again, thick snow seemed to blanket everything in white. On this side, three children, mischievous, were still looking out at the snow-filled sky. The scene before them surprised the three children, discussing with each other. Snow falls incessantly. Cold wind blows in. Because it was too cold, they quickly closed the door. Real winter. On this side, the man seemed briefly helpless. Sighed and spoke, still continuing. "We prepared well though." While everyone was still worried, handsome guy smiled and announced, "Don't worry too much. Let's go get more food." Everyone continued running to this side to get the prepared food. Just going to get a bit of food, but everyone's faces were covered in cold snow. When returning, the faces of all three became extremely bewildered. Seeing that, the children quickly moved forward, brushing the snow off them. Time passed. Everyone was excited by the taste of the food in their hands. Dongyu, along with other children, constantly enjoyed these delicious dishes. Snow here continued to fall, extremely coldly. After that, the children quickly lay down on the ground, preparing to fall asleep. Only Dongyu still couldn't sleep. Snow continued to fall. He knew that things were still continuing. Snow continued to fall with the power to cover everything. Snow just kept falling. Simultaneously, creatures outside were covered by white snow, also became extremely cold. They only knew to rely on each other to survive this harsh winter. The wolves now also had to lie together to keep the only warmth. On this side, They tried to huddle together tightly, not letting the cold wind blow in. Among them, one wolf became extremely tired. After a period of trying, finally, the mother wolf gave birth to a new life. Next were two pups. One more wolf was also born. The mother wolf happily turned back to lick them as if welcoming her children. The surrounding wolves also surprisingly approached to examine. The white wolf, Alpha, quickly raised its head to look forward, as if signaling something. Amidst the quiet dark night, it quickly raised its head and howled. Snow continued to fall thickly at this place. Time gradually shifted to early morning. The next day snow still fell incessantly. Days passed. The cold snowflakes couldn't stop. Unknown how long had passed. The snow also gradually lessened. After so many days of waiting, finally the sunlight rose high. Villagers excitedly used sticks to beat the snow off the tent. Adults excitedly prepared to go hunting. Spike Head and everyone also prepared all their gear. Handsome Guy turned back to look at the children and urged, "Hurry up children, let's go." "What is it?" Dong Yu excitedly signaled Curry. All the warriors in the village carried weapons. Slowly moving forward, Curry's face was extremely excited, making Dong Yu feel happy too. Realizing something, he quickly pointed forward. This made her also surprised, looking at the antlers submerged in the cold snow. "What is that?" Everyone gathered to observe the situation. Spike Head carefully peeled back layers of snow, realizing the cold carcass of the deer lying there. Startled the uncle. This time, everyone in the village couldn't hide their bewilderment. They hurriedly spoke to each other. "It's a deer." Dong Yu continued to approach, observing the condition of the deer. "Did it freeze to death?" "It's stiff right now." The boy on the side turned back to call Flatface. "Father." He quickly approached, observing the situation right in front. Slant Eyes didn't know what to do. When these deer were dead, what do we do now? Everyone stood there in silence. Silent for a moment. Everyone was still standing still there, not knowing what to do. Immediately after, everyone buzzed and constantly asked, "What now? Take it home?" Everyone gradually bent down, observing this deer more closely. Is it edible? This problem became a difficult issue. How to take it? Frozen too heavy? Dong Yu saw that and thought silently. They intend to take it back to eat? He hurriedly reached out to stop them all. This made Spike Head and everyone bewildered. What is it? Why? Curry on the side kept acting out eating. She herself felt confused. No? She turned back to explain to everyone. Do not eat. But Spike Head and everyone were extremely wondering. Why not? Dongwoo continued to state his speculation, as he tried to explain. First, we don't know when or how it died. Second, it might be infected with bacteria or germs. His face became extremely serious. Third, although it looks fine on the outside, it might be rotten on the inside. Realizing the language gap was too big, he sat there helplessly. How do I explain this? Curry, right beside him, suddenly raised her hand. She turned to look at Dongwoo. When? How? She was trying to interpret for him about the death. Watching his every action, she seemed to have understood something. She quickly interpreted. Back for everyone present there. Don't know when or how it died. So we must not eat it. Everyone pondered, staring at each other as if silently calculating. Finally, Buzzcut spoke up. What the kids say makes sense. There was no other way. The uncle could only speak up to give the order. Leave those deer behind. Just take the intact skins and let's move. Sometime later, the sun had risen high over this place. Snow-filled footsteps marched forward. Buzzcut and everyone else began their hunting expedition again. Suddenly, the snow collapsed. Curry couldn't react in time. Fortunately, Dongwoo grabbed her in time to hold her back. Seeing that, the others rushed over, trying to pull Curry up. Everyone realized that this time they had reached a rocky cliff. Pokerface quickly turned around to signal everyone. Form a single line. After that, Pokerface continued taking steps forward. Follow my footsteps. Sometime later, the scene shifted to inside the tent. Looking at the pile of food in front of them, Silly Girl was very curious and asked, "How long will this be enough to eat?" The village elder pondered for a moment. Then, the elder quickly stepped outside and said to the girl, "Probably 1 or 2 months." This made the girl even more worried. Will spring arrive during that time? The elder turned away, shaking his head helplessly, and replied, "I don't know." Looking at this situation made the elder unable to predict the story that would follow. A winter lasting this long is something never seen or experienced before. Sometime later, Everyone discovered something. Curly quickly shouted to everyone, "Here! Over here!" Seeing that, everyone hurriedly advanced quickly towards the front. Two cold bodies lying there caught everyone's attention. After examining the situation, everyone quickly said to each other, "Cold as ice. Froze to death?" Curry approached and was surprised to realize it was a woman. While observing, suddenly, Dongwoo noticed something unusual. He hurriedly pointed at the body, drawing Buzzcut's attention. "What is it?" He continued to spot 2 bite marks on the flesh of these 2 bodies. "Look at this place." After examining the wound, Buzzcut quickly realized this wound was caused by a wild beast's bite. This also left Bun feeling bewildered. Beast? A tiger? Curly on the side quickly speculated, or maybe a leopard. The uncle held the wound to examine it more closely. No. At this size, it seems the uncle realized something. Wolf teeth. This made everyone present there immediately bewildered. Wolf. Dongwoo silently looked at the corpse in front of him. Wolf. Looking at them, the current scene was incredibly pitiful. 2 men and women of the same age, probably a couple. He felt extremely confused and asked himself, why did it turn out like this? Thoughts kept appearing ceaselessly. Were they attacked by wolves? Time rewound. Previously, a whiny boy called out, "Mom, I'm hungry." This made the father very sad, so he decided, Mom and Dad will go find something to eat. Take care of your younger sibling. The 2 siblings seeing their parents leave could only cry, but there was no other way but to endure. But that was all Dongwoo's speculation. So the couple went to find food. That was also the reason both of them accidentally encountered the wolves, a hungry wolf pack. Worn out by the long winter clashed with them. Thinking of this, Dongwoo quickly rejected this thought. No. He felt extremely confused again. Since the 2 people only had 1 bite mark. If they were prey, they would be torn apart, but the bodies are intact. Like this. The wolf pack didn't plan to eat these 2 people. Another hypothesis was formed in his head. Perhaps they caught something and were robbed by the wolves. Dongwoo's eyes suddenly lit up. That's right, that makes more sense. He quickly signaled to everyone around. This time, everyone around stared intently at him with bewildered faces. And so, some more time passed. Right here, after hearing Dongwoo's speculation, Buzzcut also had to nod in agreement. Yeah. That is possible. Curry, at the side, became very thoughtful. And spoke her thoughts. And we only see 2 people hunting. It must be a small family. Besides these 2, there are probably only the elderly. Or children. She continued to turn her head towards Dongwoo. Right? The adults present there also pondered. As they looked at the 2 bodies, they sighed continuously, chatting with each other. Perhaps they went to find food for the children. How pitiful. They probably didn't expect the winter to last so long. Hearing that, she quickly urged everyone. Then let's go find them. Curly at the side thought a bit. Search how? We don't even know where they came from. Pokerface shook his head and voiced his thought. It's not certain we will find them. This made everyone curious. By what means? He continued pointing, his hand up high. Look there. Noticing a red string tied to a tree branch made everyone curious. What is that? He continued to speculate. A sign to avoid getting lost. It seems Buzzcut understood something. Because of heavy snow, they marked it to not get lost. Right then, Curly hurriedly ran ahead. Here. Here is another one. Everyone quickly followed this red string to examine the situation. Just as predicted, there is another family? Dongwoo walked and worriedly asked himself, are they still alive? Or can they be saved? After a long time moving, everyone was gradually reaching the destination. Suddenly Dongwoo discovered something. He hurriedly pointed down below and shouted. Seeing that, the others also quickly approached to examine the situation. Turns out there was a hut placed readily at the foot of the mountain. Bringing curiosity with them, everyone slowly entered this place. Buzzcut carefully opened the hut door to check. Sure enough, there were 2 children fast asleep. Not knowing anything yet, the uncle quickly approached to check the 2 kids. When placing his hand on their necks, it seemed the 2 kids were still just fast asleep. Everyone behind was still worried. Watching the situation, Buzzcut smiled, turned back to announce to everyone. Still warm. Both are alive. This made everyone breathe a sigh of relief. Thank goodness. Curry quickly urged, let's bring them home. And so, the 2 children were brought back by everyone. The boy was still fast asleep, not knowing what had happened. The sky was gradually shifting towards late afternoon. Inside the hut, all the adults were staring at the boy. Both of these children were still fast asleep, as if unaware of what happened. Bun along with his group also quickly approached. to observe, sensing something was wrong. The two children slowly opened their eyes, seeing strangers. Startled and frightened, the two children. Silly girl saw that and laughed, announcing, "They're awake." Strange faces. This scene made both children very surprised. "Who is it?" Everyone quickly pointed at themselves to introduce themselves. "The moon, the stars." Perhaps the two children were still very panicked. Both hurriedly turned their heads, searching around. "Where are our parents?" Curry didn't know how to announce it to these two kids. "They passed away." She continued to speak directly in front of the two kids. "We found your parents after they were attacked by wolves on the mountain." Looking at the state of the two kids was truly pitiful. "Then we found you and brought you here." They only knew to cry ceaselessly and scream, "Mom! Dad!" Because of the extreme grief, everyone quickly approached to comfort them. Some time later, familiar food was cooked up. Thin slices of meat were being held before the fire, so they could cook. The two kids finished crying and gradually felt hunger. Silly girl handed a piece of meat to both of them. "Here." Both quickly grabbed the meat and ate ravenously like starving children. Buzzcut saw that and laughed, suggesting, "Have another piece, okay?" Dongwoo smiled, looking at the children's state. Finally, he felt somewhat reassured. The time after that was late at night. All the children around this place were fast asleep. Even the two new kids were fast asleep, unaware of what was happening in the adults' hut. The light was still shining. The scene shifted to inside the hut. The village elder was still sitting before the fire, pondering. Pokerface coldly announced to everyone, "I object." Even Silly Girl slowly spoke up. "Me too." Buzzcut, after pondering, spoke his thoughts. "I think it would be better to search more." The mother at the side also quickly said to everyone, "That's right, who knows if there are others who can't survive the winter?" This made the village elder very conflicted and hesitant. Dongwoo suddenly signaled to the elder, making the village elder feel confused. Curry, sitting right next to him, quickly understood his meaning. Having many people? She felt very confused. "Is good?" Dongwoo's face blossomed into a radiant smile. This made Squinty at the side feel confused. "What do you mean?" Curly was still bewildered. "Good in what way?" Dongwoo continuously signaled with his hands. Curry at the side continuously interpreted. "The more people." His demeanor became very decisive. She saw that and laughed, extending her hand forward. "Then, the stronger we are." I quickly expressed his thoughts to everyone. "And we can hunt larger animals." The village elder gently patted his head and praised, "That makes sense too." This also made everyone in the village ponder. Time blinked and shifted to the morning of the next day. Everyone continued to prepare to be able to go hunting. Curry along with Dong Wu were also fully equipped. The three people, including Bun who stayed there, were ready for the hunt. And so everyone set off together. Just like usual, the sun had risen high. A lovely rabbit was still focused on finding food. Suddenly an arrow shot straight at the rabbit. This made the people from the other tribe very happy. And speak up, caught it. They excitedly held their trophy and suddenly headed back. Right at this moment, the footsteps of a familiar giant wolf appeared. This made the people in this tribe silent. In an instant, they realized the wolves had completely surrounded them. "What is it?" The wolves' appearance became extremely ferocious. They just wanted to tear these people apart. Goatee saw that and waved his hand to signal everyone. "It's okay." He forced an awkward smile, not forgetting to comfort, "Wolves usually don't attack humans." As soon as he finished his sentence, the wolves lunged straight at him. This made him panicked, hurriedly putting up his stick to block. Goatee's face became incredibly bewildered, in disbelief. Why did the wolves? Goatee startled, turning his head to look to the side. Luckily he used the stick in time to block the ferocious wolf. This made the ferocious wolf retreat to one side. The more he thought, the more confused Goatee felt. Strange. The wolves had now completely surrounded the group. Wolf packs never attack humans fiercely like this. The wolf's appearance became extremely savage. Seeing this situation, Goatee continuously shouted, "Come closer." The rabbit on the side had gradually died at some point. Turns out the wolves were only aiming at the rabbit on the side. Its eyes became extremely savage. Goatee seriously reminded everyone, "Don't expose any openings." The wolves in this place continuously stared at the group, refusing to let go. Top Knot, slightly afraid, asked, "Father, what do we do now?" It seemed he had guessed something. "Give the rabbit to father." Top Knot was a bit curious, but still held the rabbit according to his words. When seeing the rabbit, the wolf's appearance became even more ferocious. This made Goatee even more certain before his action. He seriously instructed his sons, "When father throws this rabbit, You run in the opposite direction, understand? Hearing that, both of them immediately nodded in agreement. Yes. Goatee, after finishing his instructions, directly threw the rabbit into the air. Simultaneously, all three people ran like the wind in the opposite direction. Run. The faces of all three looked extremely serious. At the same time, the wolves hurriedly rushed towards the carcass of the little rabbit. Sometime later in this vast forest, all three, after running for a long time, became extremely exhausted. Top Knot felt a bit lucky and turned back to announce, "It seems they didn't chase us." The more he thought, the more regretful the archer felt. The rabbit that we worked so hard to catch. Hearing that, he sighed and replied, "We had to leave the rabbit to escape. If we kept it, the whole group would have died." The archer continued, turning his head to look at Goatee. "What now? We have to catch something." Seeing no other way, he immediately stood up announcing, "Let's search again from the start." The three people continued stepping forward to explore. While walking, the three discussed with each other, "What if the wolf pack appears again? Then we run again." Meanwhile, on this side, Buzzcut's group was also advancing forward. Buzzcut quickly asked Pokerface, "Do you notice anything strange?" He still didn't understand what was going on. "What?" The uncle bewilderingly searched around. "Too few animals." He sighed and quickly stated his speculation. Probably due to the continuous snowfall. Seeing something was wrong, his face immediately became bewildered. Pokerface hurriedly waved his hand to signal everyone. "Wait." Everyone became very confused by this action. He kept waving his hand to signal everyone, "Stand still." This time everyone entered a state of alert, slowly looking around. In the strange bush ahead, rustling sounds rang out. But all this was heard by Curly. He was surprised, turned his head to look at Squinty and asked, "Humans?" Buzzcut in front also nodded in agreement. "That's right, it's the sound of human footsteps." Everyone continued stepping forward. "Right then," Bun asked with some worry. "If we appear suddenly, will we scare them?" Squinty at the side also quickly spoke his thoughts. "We might get attacked." Dongwu began to ponder and calculate again. He looked towards everyone and spoke to signal. This time, everyone looked at him with bewildered eyes. He continuously clapped his hands to signal everyone. "Everyone, if we clap like this, can we signal beforehand?" Understanding Dongwu's intention, everyone marveled in surprise. Dongwu continued to clap his hands rhythmically. Seeing that, Squinty and Curly also continuously clapped. On this side, the three people, including Goatee, were also hearing strange noises. They bewilderingly searched around this place. After realizing the signs of humans, Goatee quickly put his hands out to clap. Realizing this sound, he became extremely curious and asked, "Is the noise like this?" Standing there, he continuously put his hands out to clap. Hearing these sounds made Bun extremely bewildered. "Huh? I hear a sound like that." Buzzcut also nodded in agreement. "Yeah, I hear it too." And so everyone walked while clapping. Goatee on the side also quickly clapped along with everyone. Finally, both sides met each other directly. Dongwu and Curry extended their hands to greet. On this side, Goatee and everyone quickly reciprocated. Pokerface hurriedly put his weapon down on the ground to show safety. Both sides chatted happily with each other very animatedly. Some time later, both sides excitedly chatted with each other. "What is this?" "Dried meat." The archer and Top Knot, enjoying this dried meat, were moved to tears. Buzzcut also smiled, looking at Goatee's happy appearance. Some time later, Goatee slowly recounted everything. "We worked very hard to catch a rabbit, but the wolf pack appeared." Hearing this, Pokerface seemed to understand something. "Robbed, huh?" Buzzcut's face became thoughtful, remembering everything. Strange. Last time, that couple was the same. The wolves keep attacking people first. Realizing this action of the wolves made Goatee feel extremely confused. Suddenly Dongwu stood up, continuously shouting to signal everyone. Curry slowly stood up, smiled, and asked, "Ask them if there are any other relatives." The archer and Top Knot quickly recounted. "At home, I still have my mother and a baby." Dongwu saw that and nodded excitedly. Curry also translated his words. "Then let's go." And so the group of Dongwu continued stepping forward. But this time there was the additional companionship of Goatee. Everyone seemed to blend together, chatting extremely happily. The mother wolves were still diligently nursing their cubs. But sensing something was wrong, she started and turned her head to look to the side. The alpha white wolf and the other wolves had brought food back, making the mother wolf extremely overjoyed. Not wasting any time, the alpha wolf quickly tore a rabbit leg with its mouth. It carefully gave the mother wolf a rabbit leg, because caring for the cubs was too exhausting. The mother wolf hurriedly took this large leg. The remaining wolf cubs continuously played with the alpha wolf. The mother wolf, after enjoying the meal, raised her head to the sky and howled. The wolf cubs, receiving the signal, quickly approached the mother wolf. They hurriedly drank the mother's milk like obedient puppies. On this side, the alpha wolf quickly signaled to the remaining wolves. The wolves hurriedly ran over to tear at the delicious dinner. Although the food was extremely meager, it was their only meal of the day. The scene shifted to this side. The children stood outside the tent waiting ready. Buzzcut along with Goatee quickly stepped inside. This scene made the woman bewildered. Still not understanding what was happening, Goatee quickly sat down and recounted everything to his wife. At the same time, Curry also stepped forward, smiling and holding out a handful of fruits. After tasting the flavor of this strange fruit, she laughed with delight. "Thank you." Sometime later, everyone continued stepping forward. Goatee's family of 3 became extremely happy being together. In a blink, everyone had returned to everyone's familiar tent. The scenery here made Goatee's group extremely surprised and amazed. The archer looked around this place in bewilderment. "The house is huge." Buzzcut smiled at the side and instructed. "The wood is this thick to erect pillars." Looking at the outer skin layer, he became extremely curious and asked, "What skin is this? It's so thick." The uncle laughed and explained, "It's Mattern elephant skin." It seemed that was the first time he heard of this thing. Mattern elephant? What is that? Curry on this side hurriedly led the woman and the child to another area. "This is the sleeping place for us and the children." Then she led the 2 of them outside. "And this is the storage room." Hearing that, she was startled and surprised. "Storage room?" Next, Curry took the 2 of them to where everyone kept weapons. The scene before their eyes made Top Knot and the archer at the side startled and surprised. She laughed and continued walking forward. "And this is?" Looking at the reserved food stored in the warehouse made everyone startled and surprised. "Look at this." Both of them couldn't hide their excitement. "Looks so delicious." Time gradually shifted towards late afternoon. At this place, Buzzcut and Pokerface carefully sliced each large piece of meat. Their movements looked incredibly agile. The women in the village continuously distributed cabbage to each other. Large pieces of meat were carefully grilled over the fire. After hot stones were pressed tight on the food bags, everyone continued to wait. Everyone's face became expectant when looking at the food bags in front of them. Suddenly remembering something, Dongwu surprisingly turned his head to look to the side. The 2 children who lost their parents, since when did they become so obedient and silently wait for the meal? His heart suddenly felt reassured. Looking to the side, the 2 people from the other tribe also gradually blended in with this place. Moreover, after the food was cooked, everyone happily announced together, "Let's eat." Skewers of meat were distributed to each person. The 2 obedient kids were extremely expectant when seeing the meat being brought over. Everyone enjoyed the meal together. "Enjoy." Remembering something, Goatee smiled and praised, "Everyone is really talented." "How did you store so much food like this?" The village elder at the side was very calm about this and replied, "We thought this winter might last forever. So we prepared in advance, that's why we stored continuously." Time passed, and outside it was late at night. Goatee's wife ate and asked in surprise, "Why did you think so?" The village elder pointed at Dongwu. "Still eating ravenously here." The elder smiled gently and announced, "This boy warned us." This information made everyone in the other village slightly startled and surprised. Even the 2 small kids admired him when looking at him. Dongwu, realizing everyone's gaze, felt a bit shy. Outside, the temperature dropped even further. Curry dejectedly reached out to check the situation in front. It's snowing again. All 4 people bewilderedly looked up ahead. The dark sky continued to pour snow and cold down. Time returned to the night. It was time for everyone to go to sleep. Mophead, seeing this scene happily laughed and cheered, "So many people." The boy pointed his hand at each person. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This made the boy extremely excited and he laughed. "Too many." Bangs, right next to him, ceaselessly teased, "You only count to 5? This made Mophead extremely angry and shout, "No." The boy continued putting his hand out to count each number. 1, 2, 3. Right then, silly girl and pretty boy entered, smiling and announcing, "Come on, move aside." Warm-keeping stones were quickly placed down at this spot. This made the other children excited to approach and check. These stones even radiated a wave of heat. To keep warm, pretty boy carefully reminded the children at the side, "Don't touch them yet. They are still very hot." The children, being too curious, slowly approached to check. Another long freezing night passed in this place. Pretty boy held a stone in his hand and hissed. Probably okay now. Silly girl saw that and handed each stone. To keep warm to the kids. Here, 2 for each kid. Holding the stone in hand, the small kids were extremely happy. Oh, so warm. Dongwoo also obediently put his hand out to receive the stone. Looking at the stone radiating warmth in his hand, he surprisingly thought, really warm. Silly girl and pretty boy, after going outside, smiled and instructed, "Good night, children." The small kids happily held the stones in their hands and fell into a deep sleep. They held each stone tightly as if not wanting to let go. When Mophead excitedly held up a deer head to tease, the boy and everyone were still happily playing. Bangs quickly rushed forward very fast. After the stick hit his body, Mophead's face became painful. The boy quickly fell to the ground. The surrounding children saw that and laughed immediately. Even the 2 children who lost parents at the side laughed along. Right then, Mophead seemed to have discovered something. Huh? There's Dad. All the children quickly ran forward. Dad. Dad. Seeing the dejected faces of everyone made Mophead a bit disappointed. Huh? Squinty could only sigh helplessly and announce, "None." The boy still tried to follow and asked, "What about rabbits?" Curry sighed helplessly and announced, "No. Sorry." Remembering something, Buzzcut quickly asked, "How long have we been here?" Pokerface sighed, shaking his head somewhat helplessly. "I don't know. Seems like a long time." This made the uncle tiredly sigh. Goatee at the side saw this situation and gently comforted. "Tomorrow we'll catch something." Time blinked and passed to the morning of the next day. Buzzcut's group continued on the road to hunt. Goatee and teammates were still trying very hard to hunt. Some time later, Bun's voice was a bit dejected. Maybe they burrowed underground. He tried to search everywhere around here. Why don't I see any? Curly at the side also had to nod in agreement. Right, animals here are too rare. Everyone continued to return to the original location. The village elder's face was somewhat sad, not knowing what to say. Silly girl standing right next to him was a bit thoughtful. How much longer can we endure? The elder shook his head and explained with a serious face. Don't know. Maybe another month. Remembering something, the village elder continued to turn his head to look at her. What about the plants in the field? Silly girl turned back, shook her head, sighed and announced, "None. It seems the rhinos and cows ate them all." This made the elder stand still and thought. Then we are in trouble. Another day passed. The scene shifted to late afternoon. Buzzcut's group dejectedly went back empty-handed. Everyone's face became sad. Speechless. The girl looked towards everyone with eyes filled with disappointment. Today too? Pokerface sighed and nodded helplessly. Yeah, didn't catch anything. The remaining food stock in the warehouse became increasingly scarce. Silly girl saw the remaining food stock and couldn't suppress a sigh. Dongwoo stood right next to her, looking at the cauliflower lying on the ground. He doubtfully asked himself, if that is planted in the ground, will it grow back? In Dongwoo's head, he thought of the scenario of planting this radish in the ground. But then the harsh truth hit him like a blow. But in a winter like this, how can it grow? Dongwoo's group dejectedly walked outside. With shallow thoughts and resignation, the cauliflowers were still lying there, as if silently recounting. Unfortunately, the human revolution still couldn't begin. Time shifted to late night. Goatee's voice rang out. Try hunting further away. His face became extremely serious. Across the river, there is a big mountain. No one has ever been there. Hearing these words, the village elder didn't think much and immediately refused. No, must not go there. This violent reaction made everyone turn their heads to look at the elder. The village elder sighed, announcing to everyone with a serious face, "There are tigers there." This information made Dong Woo at the side startle in disbelief. Tigers? In his head, he thought of the terrifying scene of fierce tigers. He also realized a harsh truth. Yeah, with the current number of people, it's very hard to defeat a tiger. Silly girl at the side suddenly thought of something and suggested, then try catching animals in the field? Hearing this opinion, Buzzcut at the side also surprisingly spoke up asking, "The field? Do you know what animals are in the field?" She quickly raised her hand to calculate and then announced, there are rhinos, cows," and seeing her so bewildered, made the uncle even more startled and bewildered. "Animals so huge and fierce like that, can we catch them?" Poker Face at the side also nodded and added, "Right, animals in the field are all bulky and fierce." Silly girl added her thought. "Not necessarily fierce." He nodded at this information. "But if attacked, they will become fierce." Dongwu, hearing this information, was bewildered. Cows? He immediately associated it with cows in the modern world. We are talking about cows right now, right? His eyes lit up visibly. When thinking about delicious food. There are cows, but all this time, we've been eating spoiled meat? Unable to stand it anymore, he quickly stood up and shouted. His face immediately became serious as he acted it out. To everyone. This made everyone around immediately bewildered. Because they didn't understand. What is it? What's wrong? Curry at the side turned to look at him with bewildered eyes. We are many? She smiled and continued interpreting to everyone. We are many, we will catch them. This information made everyone become thoughtful and silently ponder. And so the next morning, everyone started to go hunting. Scarface seriously pointed forward and announced, "See that? That is a cow." The black cow with long horns quickly attracted Dongwu's attention. His face immediately became unsightly. Looking at this fierce appearance left him speechless and silently thinking, not the cow I imagined. Why is it so huge? His mouth immediately forced an awkward smile. Can we catch it? The time returned to last night. At that time Buzzcut announced to everyone, just catching one is enough. Everyone sat there pondering, then helplessly spoke up. It's very thick, one spear thrust isn't enough. But Dongwu didn't stop, using gestures to explain for everyone to understand. Many stabs will do. Stab, stab, stab. Squinty felt curious. Will the cow stand still? This made everyone around again silently ponder. Remembering something, Dongwu continued making strange sounds. He reached his hand forward, explaining with a serious face. His appearance even looked extremely serious, catching Curry's attention. She smiled and announced for everyone to understand, we can catch them without attacking. But this left Goatee at the side still bewildered. Huh? What? Pokerface looked at Dongwu in confusion. Catch without attacking? The cows? Everyone's eyes became indescribably sparkling. As they asked, how? Goatee became bewildered and asked, just catch them without killing? Even Pokerface at the side was confused. By what means? Dongwu quickly picked up a wooden stick. He used the wooden stick to write on the ground. All the people seeing that focused and approached to observe, seeing the scribbles on the ground, made everyone a bit confused. Everyone's face looked like a bewildered child. Dongwu continued drawing his plan on the ground. Turns out, his plan was to dig a hole for the cows to fall into. Everyone laughed in surprise seeing that. Understood. Curly also quickly announced to everyone, I've seen this picture before. Time shifted to the morning of the next day. Everyone quickly waited for an opportunity. The fierce cows were still annoyingly gathering there. Dongwu silently glanced towards Buzzcut. He inadvertently recalled the previous incident between himself and the fat guy. Right, it was the same last time. The fat guy's eyes back then became extremely desirous. He stared at the goats that were still lying still. Back to reality, Dongwu pondered. To hunt, one must understand the prey first. Sunlight illuminated this entire place. Can't look it up here. So I have to observe for myself. Seeing the situation in front of them, Buzzcut quickly announced, they are moving. The cows slowly moved in one direction. Seeing that, everyone quietly followed. Sometime later, the cows quickly drank water in the river. The group was still continuously observing every movement. Pokerface at the side quickly announced, they are drinking water. Time blinked and shifted to late evening. The cows finally fell into a deep sleep. Pokerface seeing that waved his hand to signal. Let's go. Everyone quickly returned to their secret spot. Pokerface picked up the stick, drawing symbols on the ground. They gather here first. He continued drawing in another direction. Then go over here to drink water. Everyone around was focusing on observing. Then sleep here. And everyone's faces became extremely serious. Goatee hearing that was slightly confused. So where should we dig the hole? He continued using his familiar stick. Finally, he pointed to a location in front. Here. Everyone gathered to observe the set plan. Time shifted to the morning of the next day. Buzzcut held branches in his hand and announced to everyone, gather leaves and branches here. Everyone gathered to start working. In just a short time, a pile of branches was stacked into a mountain. Everyone continued to go dig the soil. Buzzcut became extremely serious, focusing on digging the mound of earth in front. Dongwu and Curry behind quietly observed. The more he thought, the more speechless he felt. If we don't do this, when will it ever be finished? Everyone was still continuously using stones, trying to dig. In a blink, time shifted to the evening. There seemed to be no progress. Even spending the whole day, the big hole was still not finished, making everyone extremely tired. Right then, a sound rang out, making everyone turn their heads to look back. Buzzcut and the others returned, holding shovels in their hands. Dongwoo's eyes immediately lit up. Seeing that, is it a shovel? Goatee and everyone moved forward. Let me see. Great. And so everyone gathered to dig the soil again. Time passed. Until the morning of the next day. The dug hole had gradually grown larger. Buzzcut and everyone thoughtfully looked at this hole. Dongwoo and Curry smiled, signaling to everyone. Realizing there wasn't much time left, the uncle quickly reminded, must cover it before the cows arrive. Everyone hurriedly got into position. To cover this hole, Curry even carefully sprinkled soil on top to make it look real. Dongwoo at the side continuously shoveled snow in. Finally, a large hole was camouflaged perfectly on the ground. Everyone's face became extremely expectant. Will the plan succeed? Another day passed, and the time was late afternoon. Everyone lay still on the ground, observing the movement with worried faces. Realizing something, Squinty quickly announced, "They're coming." The cows slowly took steps towards this place. They still hadn't detected the abnormality on the ground and stepped forward. Dongwoo became extremely worried and silently prayed, "Please." The cows were getting closer and closer to the hole. "Please." Unfortunately, the cows didn't go straight into the hole, but circled around right next to it. This made everyone extremely desperate. Damn it. Dongwoo ceaselessly held his head and screamed. While he was still depressed, Curly quickly stood up and announced, "Failed." Poker Face hurriedly waved his hand to signal him. "Not failed yet. Sit down." It seemed he had guessed something. "If we keep waiting, they will come back." Hearing him say that, Dongwoo silently glanced towards Poker Face. He turned his head to look at Curry, then caught sight of the smile on her face. Right, no need to be disappointed. It was as if hope was added to his heart. Wait and they will come back. Time very quickly shifted to late at night. At this place, Buzzcut quickly announced to everyone, "They're here." The cows were stepping forward one by one. Dongwoo focused on observing, as if wanting to know what would happen next. Dongwoo's eyes held a bit of expectation, looking forward at them. "They're back." He could only pray to the heavens and Buddhas, "This time please." The cows still hadn't detected the abnormality, and continued stepping forward. Unfortunately this time, the lead ones walked right next to the hole. This made Dongwoo extremely depressed, thinking hope was running out. Right then, an unlucky cow fell into the waiting hole. Seeing this situation, Poker Face hurriedly shouted the signal, "Now." Everyone quickly grabbed their weapons, rushing very fast towards the cows. Everyone jumped up very high in the air, and used the prepared spears to attack. Dongwoo's eyes became extremely decisive. Finally, he could stab the cow's eye. Seeing everything gradually succeeding made him smile in joy. Just as calculated, the trap caught the cow. Only, he was still wondering, but how do we take it away? Can we pull it up with the current number of people? Right then Buzzcut signaled to everyone. "Everyone come closer and see." The uncle focused on looking at the buffalo's thick skin. The first thing to do is skin it. Then the uncle continuously made motions. First, cut the throat. Dongwoo at the side focused on observing this scene. Then slit the belly. His face was a bit thoughtful, recalling. He remembered the smile of the fat guy. Father also did the same. Back then, Dongwoo looked at the fat guy with confused eyes. What the hell is he doing? Why skin it here? Even. Many of his actions made him extremely bewildered. Is this person obsessed with skin? Is he a pervert? Only now did he understand the fat guy's actions. Right from then, father always prepared for winter and the future. Thinking of this, Dongwoo's eyes were extremely tired. Why didn't I realize it back then? Stupid and pathetic. He sighed, blaming himself. Have to experience it to no regret. Seeing him thoughtful like that made Buzzcut quickly pay attention. Huh? Why are you crying? Crying because you're happy you killed the cow? But not wasting any time, the uncle once again urged. Stop crying and hold this skin. While heading back, Curry asked in surprise. Are you crying? This time, the large slabs of meat were finally stacked carefully to one side. Everyone together dragged the spoils back. Simultaneously, the sky was gradually shifting to the morning of the next day. The children and everyone became extremely expectant. Seeing the familiar figures returning, everyone cheered happily, "They're back." So much. Is that a cow? Just as usual, the pebbles were quickly grilled. Hot on the fire, the mothers continuously processed the cabbage, while the husbands continuously used stones to slice meat. Delicious pieces of meat were grilled on the fire. The children at the side excitedly waited and laughed. Looks so delicious. Dong. Wu still only calmly and silently observed this situation. He inadvertently recalled his past life. What I wanted wasn't anything big. Back then his life became extremely difficult. A peaceful life with family. Dongwu's phone back then rang continuously. As soon as he picked up, he quickly asked, speaking. What's up? His wife sighed, recounting everything over the phone. Nothing big, but Sue spit out all the porridge. Probably didn't suit her taste. But why does she seem strangely happy? Dongwu back then didn't care about these things at all. That wasn't something he could solve. I'm very busy, can we talk later? Realizing the coldness in his voice, the wife spoke tiredly. Lately we haven't even had a meal together. Dongwu didn't yield either and reminded her. Just endure it a little longer. When this job is done, everything will be fine. It seemed the wife gradually lost her calm and asked. Until when is this job? After hanging up, she became extremely exhausted. But while his wife spoke about the present, Dongwu continued doing his job. When returning home, the two of them constantly argued. And I spoke about the future. Present and future. Everything gradually became worse. A paper was prepared. Consensual divorce confirmation paper, Mr. Kim Dongwoo. And so both of them dragged each other to court. Finally, they couldn't connect with each other. Time shifted to the evening of a certain day. In the middle of a high-end apartment, Dongwoo was still holding his head, trembling incessantly. When he looked again, Buzzcut handed him a piece of meat. Dongwoo surprisingly took this meat. The uncle didn't forget to smile and signal, eat this. Hearing that, Dongwoo quickly enjoyed the delicious meat in his hand. Everyone around ate and continuously discussed. It's delicious, softer than deer meat. So good. The village elder finished eating and also had to thoughtfully remark. Beef is so delicious. The children here, although they lost their parents, were eating extremely happily. His mouth formed a warm smile. Right. This is truly a family. At bedtime, he looked at the sky above. Dongwoo lay there pondering. His face looked extremely unsightly, as if he realized something important. He recalled the scene when everyone went hunting together, lived together, and helped each other. This is much better. Even when the fat guy fought against those bad guys. Back then, misfortune struck. Everyone was captured. Those cruel men finished off the fat guy right before his eyes. This made Dongwoo extremely angry. There was no need to kill them like that. He recalled the innocent faces of the children at this place. Curry and the kids found him drifting on the river. After that, he inadvertently recalled his former family. Then at that time, it seemed he thought of something. And the present is connected. In his heart, he still had a thought. Those two are definitely still alive somewhere. But if they are alive, simultaneously, the mastermind behind everything still exists. Probably also staying with that group. Is that group still as numerous as before? Wu still sank into his own train of thought. How many guys were there back then? 40 guys or 50 guys? He sighed somewhat tiredly, as if accepting the truth. If we meet again now, definitely can't win, right? Suddenly Dongwoo abruptly shook his head continuously. No, he told himself. Now I have to think about surviving first. Time gradually shifted towards late afternoon. It was time for the wolves to find food. All of them searched around this place for a bit of life until late at night. They still hadn't found anything. Another new day began. The wolves could only return empty-handed, with a face full of helplessness. The alpha wolf dejectedly sat down looking at the wolf cubs. Its eyes were thoughtful as if silently blaming itself. Useless. The scene shifted to the tribe's huts. Looking at the blazing fire in front, Buzzcut quickly spoke up. It's time we moved to another place. Maybe we should move? Pokerface sitting right next to him also nodded in agreement. That's right, on the mountains around here. There are no animals worth catching anymore. Another mother, hearing this, spoke up in surprise. What if we move the house to the field where we saw the cows? After a period of silence, the village elder also spoke. This field has strong winds. So we can't just build houses randomly. Pokerface at the side surprisingly looked up. If we build the house close to the foot of the mountain to shield from the wind, that's also fine, right? The elder tried to suppress a sigh and replied. Currently it's still fine. However, the village elder had also sensed something wrong. But if the number of people increases, then we will need to move house. Time blinked and shifted to late at night. Everyone crammed inside the hut and fell into a deep sleep. Curly at the side sighed and complained. Too cramped. He quickly turned to push Bun, who was sleeping, away. Only then did he have more space to sleep. And so, everyone continued to fall asleep. On this side, the cows continuously ran very fast, escaping the wolves' pursuit. The alpha wolf was extremely angry, seemingly not wanting to let his prey escape. Tens of wolves quickly rushed up, biting into the large cow's body. Finally, a cow collapsed. The alpha wolf seeing that chased after the others. The cows only knew to try to run very fast to keep their lives. The alpha wolf refused to let go and continuously barked loudly. On this side, the cow was ceaselessly struggling. In desperation. Unfortunately, two cows accidentally bumped into each other, creating a huge impact. This time all the animals present there were immediately thrown into the air. The ill-fated cow lay painfully on the ground. Seeing that, the others quickly stepped up trying to take the meat. Time shifted to the morning of the next day. Everyone continuously went on the road to find food. It seems Dongwu has discovered something. He quickly pointed forward and shouted. This time he discovered the carcass of the cow and hurriedly ran over to examine it. Everyone hurriedly used weapons to chase away these crows flying away. Damn it. This giant cow has been half-eaten. Only jagged bones remain. Buzzcut bent down to examine the situation and then remarked. This cow didn't just fall down and die naturally. Look at these wounds. Something bit it many times. This made Bun at the side feel curious. A tiger? Pokerface shook his head, continuing to examine the situation. Too many bite marks. Tigers never hunt in packs. Everyone sat down, looking at the poor cow that was bitten to death. Right before their eyes. He also realized something. Could it be a wolf pack? Buzzcut heard this and pondered. Wolves? Right then, Dongwu suddenly shouted. Everyone once again focused their attention on him. Curly felt extremely confused and asked. What now? What's wrong again? Dongwu ceaselessly used his hands to signal everyone. After knowing the information he was saying, Curry's face clearly showed annoyance. The wolf pack killed and ate our cow. This made Squinty at the side a bit surprised. Our cow? The archer also nodded in agreement. Cows in the field aren't ours. Dongwu was extremely angry, recalling the issue of ownership. Article 5, Acquisition of ownership by possession. A person who possesses property or real estate openly, continuously with the intention of ownership, shall be recognized as the owner after registration. A person who is registered as the owner of movable property, if possessing that property in good faith, openly and continuously, shall be recognized as having ownership rights. The herd on the field is not private property. Realizing his opinion had flaws made Dong Wu startle slightly. That's right. Cows on the field aren't personal property. The sun had risen even higher. Everyone continued walking forward. Realizing something was wrong, Dongwu turned his head searching around. Isn't this the place we used to set traps? The scene before his eyes made him freeze on the spot. Huh? A group of people had gathered right next to the hole. Dongwu and everyone seeing that hurriedly went over. Everyone's faces became extremely tired. After a long journey, the group on this side was looking at them, with eyes lacking any goodwill. Seeing Dongwu still staring at him, Mullet asked. What? Curry annoyedly and continuously reproached. That hole is ours. But on this side, Mullet didn't back down and replied. Nature doesn't belong to anyone. We found it. This statement made her extremely angry. What? Bun and everyone quickly stepped forward, pointing at this hole and announcing. We dug this hole. So it is ours. This information made the people around extremely bewildered. And ask, Dug? This hole? Buzzcut along with the other adults just calmly stood there. After a period of silence, the group on the other side spoke in surprise. Why dig such a big hole? Some time later, everyone sat down to chat with each other. Buzzcut and everyone quickly set up the trap in front. This made Mullet feel extremely suspicious. To trap cows? Will it be effective? Curly saw that and smiled very smugly. Time gradually shifted towards late afternoon. At this place, everyone hid to the side, silently observing the situation. Dongwu quickly turned his head to look at Mullet, making him a bit confused. Curry also quickly spoke up, watch closely. Seeing no other way, he could only sigh and obey. Right then, the fierce cows were gradually moving forward. Seeing that, everyone silently pondered and waited. It's coming. Dongwu and Mullet bewilderedly waited for what would happen next. They're here. The cows were still continuously walking forward. This time they avoided the hole and walked on. Seeing this situation made Mullet unable to hide the smile on his face. What is this? They all just walked past. Can you catch them? Hearing that, Dongwu angrily retorted. He sighed helplessly. Although I don't understand what you're saying. The faces of the adults became extremely serious. Looking forward, finally the cows ignored the hole here and went in the direction alongside it. And so everyone prepared this hole for nothing. Mullet turned his head, looking at Dongwu with scornful eyes. Seeing that, he was extremely angry. but couldn't do anything. Poker Face also suggested to everyone, wait until night, they will pass here again. This made Goatee feel surprised. So we wait here until night? The cows will return. Until they all pass? Suddenly Curly looked all around. Squinty confusedly looked to the side. Who? Why? What? He quickly pointed his hand forward, drawing everyone's attention. That is a herd of elephants slowly walking towards this place. Mammoths. This made Mullet's face brighten up completely. Huh? What? Dongwoo at the side thought in surprise. Mammoths? The giant elephants appeared before his eyes, making him startle a bit. He hurriedly shouted to signal. The boy next to him was still ceaselessly excited. His face became extremely expectant. While thinking, the biggest animal in this field? Mullet quickly bent down, taking all the prepared tools. He didn't forget to hand Dongwoo a stick and say. Then he rushed very fast towards the mammoths. Chase them. Dongwoo still didn't understand what the hell was happening. What? Seeing the two rush forward, Curry at the side was extremely worried. Where are you guys going? Mullet was still very excited, and ran very fast forward. Bigger than the herd of cows. Catch them. Chasing from behind made her worried. How can we catch them? Of course. He didn't care a bit about these things. Just chase first, figure it out later. Sitting on the side watching? Made Pretty Boy startle a bit. What? Where are they? Even Buzzcut turned back and became bewildered. Goatee confusedly pointed forward. It seems they are chasing the mammoth herd. Pretty Boy saw that and startled, turning back. What? All three kids quickly chased after the mammoths. This made Buzzcut at the side extremely worried. And shout. The uncle sighed somewhat helplessly. Seems they don't hear us. Poker Face asked in surprise. Shouldn't we chase after them immediately? While everyone still didn't know what to do, Goatee smiled, stepping forward to announce, my kids are very stubborn. They'll follow for a bit and then come back. This made both of them look at each other in silence. They could only look at the sky in front. Chase until when? On this side, Mullet turned back to explain. Until we get bored. Dongwoo also turned his head searching around. And he realized all three had gone far from the group of adults. Being this far from adults is very dangerous. This made him a bit thoughtful. You guys, it's very dangerous here. On this side. The adults also gradually walked in one direction. Squinty surprisedly searched around. Where did the kids go? The sky gradually became darker. The scene in front made all three. Dongwoo immediately smile. The mammoths were still foraging, catching the attention of all three. Eating so deliciously. He turned back to chat. When drinking water, they are obedient and don't fight anymore. Curry right next to him also nodded in agreement. Right. On this side. Dongwoo also sensed something was wrong. He hurriedly stood up to signal to the two of them. This made Mullet extremely bewildered. And ask. What is it? He signaled silence then hurriedly pointed forward. He was still bewildered, not understanding what was happening. What is that? Curry at the side seemed to have discovered something. Huh? Look. In front of all three people were the silhouettes of three adults. This made all three extremely surprised and discuss. There are people. The long-haired man pointed forward as if silently signaling. This made Dongwoo freeze in an instant. That guy is? He inadvertently recalled the scene when his previous family was captured. And this long-haired guy was one of the blue-faced guys who did evil things. That's right, it's him. This made Dongwoo extremely angry. Sensing something was wrong, he surprisingly turned his head back. Smoke rising from behind caught his attention. Smoke? Could it be other guys are also in the forest? Inside Dongwoo's head, different thoughts continuously appeared. It's too dangerous here. Luckily the other side hasn't discovered us yet. His eyes gradually became decisive. Must run. Dongwoo put his hand to his mouth to signal to both of them. Curry looking at this gesture also understood something. Quietly go back. He smiled and gently nodded in agreement. Just like that, all three extremely sneakily and slowly stood up. Then all three hurriedly walked forward. Right then, voices calling names rang out ceaselessly. This made the blue-faced guys slowly turn their heads to look. Dongwoo and his teammates froze. In an instant, the long-haired man was slightly surprised and asked, humans? Seeing no other way, Dongwoo could only run very fast forward. Run. The long-haired man saw that and hurriedly waved his hand to signal his accomplices. All three were still running for their lives. And running very fast. Curry turned back to signal the two, follow me. Mullet at the side also became extremely worried. What now? On this side, the adults were still continuously focusing on searching. The three only looked forward and ran. This time, The long-haired man turned back to hand his subordinate an arrow. Baldy slowly raised the bow towards the 3 kids. All 3 of these evil men were also aiming at the 3 kids. In order to save their lives, Dongwoo and his friends hurriedly ran very fast forward. Baldy at the back was still drawing the bow, preparing to shoot the arrow. All 3 only knew to try their best to rush away very fast. Right then, Dongwoo felt confused and asked, "They are just humans, why do we have to run?" Suddenly, an arrow shot straight in front of all 3. The faces of all 3 became extremely frightened, slowly turning their heads to look back. The long-haired man was still handing Baldy another arrow. Realizing this situation, all 3 hurriedly ran very fast forward again. Baldy was still drawing the bow, aiming straight at the 3. This time the arrow stuck into a branch next to them, making the 3 even more frightened. Mullet only now startled, turning back in confusion. "Why shoot arrows?" Dongwoo didn't reply, but continued running very fast forward. Finally the backs of all 3 disappeared into this forest. Longhair saw that and quickly signaled, "Stop. They've gone far." Baldy was slightly surprised and asked, "Should we chase them?" He began to announce to his accomplice, "No. Watch the situation first." On this side, all 3 finally began to feel tired. Curry surprisingly turned to look back. "Seems they aren't chasing us?" Remembering what happened earlier, made all 3 extremely worried. The sky had gradually shifted towards late evening. All 3 tiredly lay flat on the ground. After a long time, running continuously, Dongwoo lost his strength. Remembering the earlier event, made Mullet unable to hide his surprise. Why did they shoot arrows at us? Curry also didn't understand the earlier story. Did they plan to kill us? Hearing this made him even more bewildered. Humans killing each other? Why? She pondered silently. It was Dongwoo at the side silently recalling everything. That's right. Humans killing humans is not a normal thing here. Back then, the fat guy tried to hold off the leader of the blue-face tribe. This tribe coldly murdered both of them. That was also the reason the fat guy passed away pitifully. Thinking of this, Dongwoo suddenly sat up, pointing back. The 2 surprisedly looked inside the forest. Curry at the side, seeing this scene, surprisedly asked, "Over there? The forest earlier?" Realizing the meaning in his words, her face gradually became serious. "Those people?" Dongwoo continued picking up the stick to draw on the ground. A family of 5 quickly appeared before their eyes. It seemed she understood something more. Family?" Dongwoo continued using the sticks to draw continuously. 2 men representing the thin guy and the fat guy finally died. This made her at the side nod in understanding. Died. Linking all these stories together, she asked in surprise, "Those people killed your family?" Dongwoo helplessly nodded in agreement. Hearing his confirmation, made both of them slightly thoughtful. Time continued to pass in the forest. Everyone recognized the figures of the 3 children, and hurriedly ran over. Buzzcut annoyedly and continuously criticized. "Just arbitrarily chasing mammoths like that, huh?" Even Goatee worriedly ran over to check on Mullet. "Are you okay? Are you hurt?" Curly smiled, stepping forward to tease him. "So did you see the mammoths yet?" Squinty also laughed, stepping forward to add, "Terrifyingly huge, right? How close did you get?" He shyly scratched his head, not knowing how to explain. "I saw them, but..." The adult seeing that breathed a sigh of relief. "Oh, you saw them? Lucky that you saw them." Curry continued to speak up to announce to everyone, "But I also saw humans." Hearing this, made everyone extremely surprised and asked, "Humans?" She quickly stepped closer, placing her hand on Dongwoo's shoulder. Her voice held a bit of pity. "The ones who killed Sui's family." This information made everyone present there freeze in an instant, looking at everyone's faces. They also couldn't have expected this to happen. Time blinked and shifted to late at night. Delicious pieces of meat were grilled on the fire. Oh my! Mullet happily sat there waiting for the meal. Turns out they really used that hole to trap cows? Dongwoo sat in a corner, unable to hide his sadness. Perhaps that event was a trauma for him. Remembering their evil faces, he asked himself, "Do those people remember my face?" Seeing Dongwoo thoughtful like that, Curry smiled, stepping forward to comfort him. "Don't worry, we are here. We will protect you." The village elder also nodded, gently approaching. Don't be afraid. Cheer up, Sui." Seeing everyone care about him like that, a gentle smile appeared on Dongwoo's mouth. Remembering something, he reminded himself. No. He really cherishes his current life. This time I will protect them. Time gradually shifts to late night. Elsewhere, the butcher quickly checked the number of people present there. Longhair calmly reported everything to him. There are about 10 of them moving in a herd, with one young one. Hearing that, he asked in surprise. So, can we catch it? Longhair shook his head helplessly in response. They never separate from the herd. It seems it will be hard to catch them. Remembering something. The butcher's face looked extremely annoyed. The number of prey is gradually running out. At the same time, Longhair added his opinion. Let's think of a way to hunt those big beasts. Remembering something. He continued speaking and his next sentence made the butcher slightly surprised. While scouting, I discovered humans. The butcher hastily asked back, humans? Longhair nodded firmly, 3 children. This information left the butcher completely bewildered. Suddenly, an evil smile appeared on Longhair's lips. And one of them is a girl. This made the butcher extremely excited and he burst out laughing. Is that so? It seems like Curry still didn't know what terrible things would happen to her. Next, time gradually shifts to late night at the hut of the tribe. After listening to Dong Yue's story, everyone became silent again. Everyone's face looked strangely thoughtful. The elder seemed to be silently thinking about something. After a period of silence, Madden quickly asked, why do humans kill their own kind? Dong Yu suddenly recalled his previous knowledge. Verdict of case number 9XN0906. The incident occurred at a small pub, managed by the victim, at 1500 hours. The defendant, for financial purposes, murdered the victim with sleeping pills, then dismembered the body. The victim suffered from paranoia due to hallucinations of persecution and rage. The defendant suffered from mental disorder. The deceased killed your husband with sleeping pills due to an extramarital affair, due to continuous sexual abuse by the stepfather. The defendant conspired with her birth mother, stabbed the victim in the heart while he was sleeping. Remembering something, the mother spoke up in surprise. Are Sway's mother and younger sister okay? The elder turned back to explain. They still have use value, so they will only be captured alive. After speaking, the elder didn't forget to comfort Dong Yu, don't worry too much. They will be safe. This made another woman feel a bit worried, but if they come to catch people, then they will find their way here too, right? The silly girl. Hearing that, she couldn't hide the thoughtfulness on her face. So we might also be killed. Or captured. The woman also nodded to confirm this. That's right, there is that possibility. Buzzcut turned back to probe the elder's opinion. So just in case, should we move to another place? Hearing about leaving so suddenly, the elder shook his head in refusal. No, that's not a good idea. It seems the elder is trying to think of a better way. Moving the whole village isn't something that can be done immediately. The elder's face looked very certain. As he added, moreover, places where humans have lived always leave traces. These words made everyone present fall silent immediately. Just then, remembering something, the elder turned back to ask Dong Yu, hey Sway, how many of them are there? Curry quickly translated from the side, a lot. She continued speaking to the elder. And everyone present there listened together, many times more than the number of people here. From earlier until now, Dong Yu just sat still there. The more he thought, the more worried he felt. Will they find their way here? If they can't catch me, will they capture the women again? He involuntarily recalled unpleasant things. They even murdered a lot of people. This made Dong Yu shake his head helplessly, no way. As if reading his thoughts. The elder smiled gently. Sway, you look miserable thinking so much. The elder used affectionate eyes to gently comfort Dong Yu. Don't worry too much. It's not easy for them to find this place. Feeling that the day had been too long, the elder quickly stood up and told everyone. Let's sleep today, we will discuss further tomorrow. And so everyone returned to their huts to get some sleep. Dong Yu still couldn't sleep and silently thought. If they find this place and attack, kill the men and take the women. He constantly thought of different hypotheses. 1. Find this place. 2. Attack the villagers. Suddenly Dong Yu's face became thoughtful as if realizing something. He hurriedly sat up, attracting the attention of those around him. Curry looked at Dong Yu's silhouette, running outside and was bewildered. What is it? Where is he going? Suddenly Dong Yu shouted loudly to warn everyone. This made everyone who was sleeping soundly jump up as well. Their faces became extremely bewildered. And asked, what's wrong, Sway? Time has fast-forwarded to the morning of the next day. Longhair quickly listened to the situation. The group of blue-faced guys quickly checked the footprints on the snow, then speculated, these are footprints, all right. They examined the footprints carefully, then discussed with each other. Too small, it's those kids from that day. Longhair quickly pointed forward, in that direction. The group of blue-faced guys continued walking forward. Everyone looked very alert. to their surroundings. After scouting the front, Longhair quickly raised his hand to stop everyone. This made his accomplices extremely surprised and they asked, "What is it? Why? What?" His face became extremely serious. Heard a noise. Seeing that, his teammates also tried to press their ears to hear what sound it was. Heard it. The blue-faced group continued to rush forward. Is that really the sound? That noise? Over here, the cows were still struggling ceaselessly. Longhair and his gang saw that a cow had fallen into a pit. This made them unable to hide their surprise. It's a cow. Yeah, the sound of a cow mooing. They looked around. Why is this cow here? How did it get in? Strange. The smart Longhair standing at the side also realized something. It didn't just wander in here naturally. His eyes became extremely cold as he judged. Someone intentionally dug this pit. The accomplices kept silent. Baldy, after a period of silence, also asked, "Why?" He sighed. Pointing at the cow in front of them, he declared, "To catch a cow without wasting effort." This information made the blue-faced guys look awkwardly bewildered. Not to waste time, Longhair quickly ordered, 2 people go back to the village. Report the situation here to the chief. Then lead everyone here. Hearing that, the 2 subordinates hurriedly nodded in agreement. He continued pointing forward as if commanding, "The rest of you come with me to continue hunting the kids." Although very reluctant, they could only agree. And so both sides immediately started their work. Longhair constantly walked forward scouting the situation. At this moment, the blue-faced team only had 4 people left. Realizing something was wrong, Hitler quickly turned back to announce, "Here." They looked in surprise at the footprints on the ground. There are footprints of adults. There are more of them, they are just nearby. This time they continued exploring forward. Longhair suddenly noticed something. He recognized the scene ahead. Looked extremely devastated. Found it. It seemed the hut here had collapsed some time ago. He laughed looking at the various fruits that were spoiled and scattered on the ground. "Haha, see?" The man triumphantly picked up the canvas to examine it. "They threw away their food and ran away?" Right at this moment, an arrow immediately shot towards them. Of course, Longhair, before he could notice, was shot straight in the body by the arrow. Seeing that, Longhair and Hit Lu were startled and looked up ahead in surprise. Dong Yu, along with everyone on the side, was executing an ambush. His eyes held a bit of joy as he silently thought, the plan succeeded. Realizing that they were being ambushed made the blue-faced guys completely bewildered. Dong Yu gritted his teeth in determination, even though his hands were still trembling. Noticing the situation wasn't good, the blue-faced guys turned around and ran very fast towards the back. This made Buzzcut angry, constantly scolding them for running away. "Why don't you shoot?" Madin hurriedly turned back to signal everyone. "They are fleeing towards the forest. Chase them." Everyone hurriedly grabbed weapons and chased after the blue-faced guys. Dong Yu chased while angrily gritting his teeth. Time rewinds to the evening of yesterday. Dong Yu constantly signaled everyone. Curry on the side was attentively translating. "They are here. They won't attack massively all at once." She conveyed his meaning perfectly. "If they attack this place, 1. Scout, 2. It will happen in 2 attack phases." These words made everyone ponder. First, calmly check the scouts. Surely not many people will come. Dong Yu involuntarily clenched his fist. Curry also surprisingly added to everyone, "We will catch that small group." He continued to look at everyone. He constantly pointed towards Mullet and people from the other tribe. Seeing that, she interpreted in her own way. The mothers together with children and the elder carry as much food as possible. Hide at Uncle's house. This made Mullet slightly startled. Surprised, Curry continued to speak the plan that Dong Yu had prepared. "And the rest? We'll fight them here." Dong Yu clenched his fist decisively. She didn't forget to add, "If prepared well, we can totally win." This made everyone become serious and nod in agreement. Dong Yu, on this side, continued running fast forward. "Can kill them." His eyes contained nothing but hatred. He quickly recalled the face of the fat guy. "They are the enemies who killed my family." The butcher, seeing that, even smiled. The action wasn't murder. This made him feel only hatred. "But we kill to survive at the same time." Buzzcut and everyone were slightly worried. Quickly called out, "Don't know where he disappeared to." A long time chasing continuously made Dong Yu gradually lose strength. Suddenly, right then, a strange footstep appeared. He also detected something was wrong. Luckily, just in time, he managed to dodge this attack. Longhair, seeing the situation wasn't good, hurriedly ran like the wind forward. Madin didn't want to lose. Running along with everyone, Chasing, Dongyu slowly raised the arrow high towards him. Seeing this situation, Longhair turned back in surprise. Before he could react, an arrow pierced through his body. He fell hard to the ground in pain. Buzzcut and Madden hurriedly stepped forward. Suppressed and caught him. Stand still. Some time passed at this place. The evil ones finally had to pay the price with their lives. Longhair was tied up sitting on the ground. Buzzcut questioned uncomfortably. Speak. Why did you kill this child's family? Hearing that, he looked up in surprise. Family? Curry was extremely angry and ceaselessly scolded. Sway's family killed all men and took the mother and sister away. The more she spoke, the more she couldn't hide her outrage. Why did you do that? Speak. Hearing this, Longhair finally understood something. Family. He continued to look at Dongyu with judging eyes. People who are strangers cannot become family. His face became extremely cruel. As he added, only women can create a family with the same bloodline and lineage. These words made Dongyu unable to hide his anger. What? Remembering something. Cruel Longhair laughed loudly with delight. Anyway, I've marked the whole path here. He ceased not to utter various threats. Others will find this place and kill all of you. There was some madness in his voice. And take all the women away again. We are. Before he could finish his sentence, Dongyu angrily pierced his body with a spear. A pain transmitted from his body made Longhair grit his teeth to endure. His eyes were still very cold. Seemed like he didn't care at all. Time gradually shifts to late afternoon. The huts had been moved to the foot of the mountain. The women of the tribe sat still there, with extremely sad eyes. Mullet on the side was also biting his teeth restlessly. Too much time has passed. He constantly asked, they aren't back yet? Wonder if anything happened? The elder on the side also couldn't hide his worry. Finally, the elder just sighed and instructed everyone. Since it's not the appointed time yet, let's continue waiting. The moon has risen high. Familiar footsteps walked forward. After examining the ropes tied on the tree branch, the blue-faced subordinates hurriedly announced, here. The butcher seeing that was extremely angry. They held weapons, trying to walk very fast forward. Finally, they discovered the abandoned huts. Here. A subordinate among them quickly spoke up. There are bloodstains here. He continued pointing at the rope tied on the high tree branch. There are traces over there too. This made the butcher who witnessed it become extremely annoyed. The surrounding crowd hurriedly got into combat readiness at any time. On this side, Dong, you led everyone to continue stepping forward. Search. Everyone's face became serious. But perhaps the most serious one was Dong Yu. Looking at the group appearing before their eyes, made the blue-faced guys hurriedly signal, over there. The butcher seeing this situation hurriedly took step by step forward. The next scene made his eyes widen. Unbelievable. In front of him were the corpses of his two teammates hanging there. That was the first time. The butcher felt so insulted. He gritted his teeth, trying to force himself to be very calm. On this side, Bun constantly tied the red rope on the tree. His face was a bit bewildered as he asked. Here? Curry on the side quickly nodded in agreement. That's the right spot. The sun has risen high at this place. Buzzcut and Madin tried to use strength to pull the rope high up. Finally the corpse was completely hoisted up. Fearing Curry would be traumatized, Dongyu hurriedly covered her eyes. At that time, Chinbeard constantly spoke to everyone. This doesn't seem right. They will definitely get furious and go crazy. Everyone heard that and nodded, constantly discussing with each other. That's right. They will find and try to kill us. We must hide the bodies, so that they can't find them. This made Buzzcut and everyone ponder deeply. Suddenly, Dongyu stepped out to stop everyone's action. Curry also translated his every action for everyone to understand. If we hide the bodies, they will think that we are afraid. It seems he is thinking of something deeper. Even if we try to hide them, they will eventually find them. And similarly, they will find and kill us. Instead, we ourselves will spread fear to them. Suddenly Dongyu pointed down at the ground. Everyone also looked in bewilderment. The bodies were now piled up on the ground. Curry's eyes immediately became serious, as she told everyone around. We are strong enough to deal with them like this. We can easily defeat you. That is also the reason why. The butcher saw the scene in front of him. He gritted his teeth in annoyance. Some subordinates hurriedly supported the bodies of those people down. The butcher's hands were trembling, slowly reaching towards Longhair. Tears on his face kept flowing down. In helplessness, he hurriedly hugged Longhair's body tightly and cried ceaselessly. The moon had risen high in this place. The butcher coldly uttered two words, kill them. Thinking about everything that happened, made him unable to hide his anger. Those who killed our family. We will find and kill them all. This made the subordinates slightly thoughtful, recognizing the expression on the group's faces. The butcher was startled in surprise. Right then, an old woman slowly appeared there. That doesn't seem like a good idea. Seeing the old woman made him extremely bewildered. What? The old woman was silent and thoughtful, continuing to speak what she sensed. We have never been treated like this before. The ones we have met were always weaker and fewer than us. It seems she also sensed. The situation is wrong. But now it's different. These words silenced the butcher for a moment. The old woman continued to point at those bodies and continued speaking. We don't know who killed our family like this. Don't know how many of them there are. And how strong they are. It seems like she has too much experience in this. They might be more numerous and much stronger than us. Hearing these words made the subordinates around constantly look at each other with fearful eyes. The butcher just stood on one side silently observing. This time even he felt worried. Fear and terror coming from the unknown. He remembered the ill-fated deaths of his teammates. We don't know how large their numbers are. The old woman's voice kept resonating. And the one leading them. How cruel he is. Although very angry about the teammate's death, the butcher couldn't do anything else. Suddenly a lightning bolt appeared in the sky. The lightning struck hard down to the ground. This sound made the butcher startle, cover his head and lie down. Not only him. The guys around also immediately covered their heads in fear. He was still curling up holding his head in a corner, looking extremely pitiful. Sweat on the butcher's face kept flowing down. Snowflakes also arrived, making him suddenly look up. Not understanding why the sky once again poured snow down. Because of being too surprised, the butcher looked up ahead. The dark sky here seemed to have changed. Even his subordinates were still bewildered. Not understanding what was happening. Regaining his composure, the butcher quickly slammed his staff down to the ground. He announced to everyone present here, "Let's go home." Having said that, he ordered men to carry the teammates' bodies and return. The scene shifts to another place. Mullet was now worried. Glancing outside, oh my god. Why are they taking so long? Everyone here also became extremely thoughtful. Waiting any longer would be too dangerous. Let's just head out first. Mullet continued to turn his head, looking for everyone's return. Recognizing the familiar figures approaching, he shouted happily, "There." Dongyu and Curry smiled and waved to say hello. Seeing that, he hurriedly ran towards the two. Curry, Sway, as soon as he confirmed both were safe. Tears on Mullet's face kept flowing down. "Why are you so late?" "I was very worried." Seeing the children getting along like that, everyone laughed happily. Really? The sky at this moment also poured cold snow down. That dark sky. Yet this place was getting darker and darker. The scene shifts to the side of the butcher's campsite. The 3 killed bodies were finally buried. They were there. He stood angrily in front of the graves of these 3, with outrage and fear of us in his heart. But we continued. Time passed until the next day. Everyone continued walking on the road. Dongyu started the migration journey with everyone again, moving to find a better place. He tried to think of a brighter future. Little by little, gradually more people gathered here. The number of people increased. Of course, there was still sharing of food with each other. This made Dongyu feel a bit of warmth. It's so good. Even. Everyone was extremely excited and danced around. The big party passed after quite a long time. On a day when it rained like pouring water, everyone inside the hut still didn't understand why it rained so heavily. Dongyu quickly stepped up and asked Curry, "What are you looking at?" Curry smiled and announced, "It's raining." He also stepped outside in surprise. Rain? And now he has become a young man. Extremely strong. His lips curled into a gentle smile. "Yeah. It's raining, grown up." Dongyu together with Curry walked outside. Looking at the pouring rain, he and his wife smiled and waved. At the same time, Mullet also returned with 2 wolves walking around. "I'm back." Seeing him working so hard made him curious. "How about the storage?" He nodded and quickly replied, "Fine, still cold as usual." Suddenly his face became serious. "But there is a problem." Time rewinds to before. Right after escaping from those guys, the image of the butcher constantly appeared in his memory. We always felt uneasy. Everyone then continued life by camping by the river. Everyone was sitting gathered around the fire. Just like they are afraid of us, we are also afraid of them. Chinbeard was slightly worried and asked, "Did the plan go well?" The elder on the side nodded in agreement. Only hope the plan went smoothly. Hearing this made everyone become thoughtful. Dongyu was no exception. Every day we didn't stop thinking. Many times he asked himself, "Why am I here? Who am I? There were many times. Dongyu constantly approached the water to observe. Curry, seeing that, curiously asked, "Do you see anything?" His eyes narrowed. Looking at the ice layer on the river, looking into his eyes, made Bun extremely surprised. Really? Everyone, look at the fish beneath the ice layer. It's those things. Reserve food, it's real. Found it. Seeing that, everyone hurriedly used sticks to open a small hole. Dongyu continued his fishing process. He didn't forget to show the adults. Buzzcut, seeing that, gently patted his head. "Dongyu, good job." Time shifts to the evening. Everyone started with a grilled fish meal. Everyone ate extremely happily. The elder at this moment smiled and turned to look at Dongyu. Those guys didn't come even as days passed. It seemed Sui's plan was successful. Everyone looked at him with affectionate eyes. This made him extremely shy and smile. Time passed, another peaceful day went by. Dongyu walked outside, sitting there quietly with a thoughtful look. No one knew what he was thinking in his head. Right then, Curry on the side asked in surprise, "What are you thinking about?" Then she looked up at the sky in front of her. Suddenly Dongyu gently placed his hand on his chest. Seeing that she kept asking, "Me? You." Her face became pensive. Pondering something, she pointed at Dongyu and said, "I am Curry." He also introduced his name. "I am Sui." After speaking, his face became thoughtful. Both looked up at the sky, stargazing. A Milky Way appeared right before their eyes. "Right, I am Sui. Dongyu just wanted time to stop here. Here, at this place, who I am is not important." But in his heart, there was a thought that troubled him greatly. The important thing is how to survive. Realizing it was late, both continued walking forward. Other things don't need to be worried about. Going inside the hut, the children were still playing with the people here, living this life to the fullest. Dongyu laughed gently, picking up the spear. "That's all I need to think about." Outside, suddenly a heavy rain poured. This made Dongyu unable to sleep. The children quickly opened the hut to check the sky. Before their eyes, "It's raining." "Really?" Dongyu also couldn't hide his surprise, and walked outside. This rain made him extremely surprised. Rain? The sky is still so pitch black. Snow is gradually melting away here. Not snow but rain? Cold air immediately rushed in here. Time passed, the snow also gradually melted completely. This heavy rain seemed to have no sign of stopping. Inside the hut, it seemed everyone gathered once again. Everyone's face became serious. Sitting before the fire, Girl 5 immediately smiled and asked, "It seems the weather is getting warmer lately, right?" The woman right next to her smiled and nodded in agreement. "That's right. The snow on the mountain over there has also melted completely." The mother's face was full of anticipation. "Is spring coming soon?" Madden was slightly thoughtful. "If that's true, it would be great." Dongyu on the side silently thought, rain, spring, warmth. Realizing something was wrong, he suddenly stood up. Could it be? Everyone around, seeing his action, was extremely puzzled. Ignoring the rain, Dongyu walked outside. Everyone looked at him worriedly and asked, "Sui, where are you going?" Dongyu quickly went inside the warehouse and pointed at the pile of reserve meat. His face became extremely serious as he told everyone. This made Silly Girl slightly surprised. "What's wrong, Sui?" Buzzcut also nodded in confusion. Dongyu continued to pick up a piece of meat to smell it closer. Suddenly, painful tears flowed down his face. "Indeed, very strange. Is it because the ice melted and then froze again?" Repeatedly. Right then the mother on the side seemed to understand something. She approached, picked up the meat to smell. The rain outside had also stopped. The amount of food not spoiled finally remained very little. The mother helplessly announced to everyone, "Only this much food is left." This made Buzzcut startle and ponder. Madden quickly announced to everyone, "It seems we need to go hunting tomorrow." Right at this moment, Dongyu reached out, making him pay attention to Sui. What is it?" Dongyu's face became extremely serious, announcing there is something more important than hunting. Time passed. Everyone silently watched Curly Hair's actions. He was still using the shovel, trying to dig up soil and rocks. This made him bewildered. Turning to look at Slit Eyes and asking, "Is this right? Won't it be warmer underground?" Bun worked while constantly urging, "Just do it." Everyone quickly dug a large pit in the ground. What Sui says is mostly correct. That's right. On this side, all three adults. Buzzcut was still focused on digging. "Look." Bun quickly looked at the three people with judging eyes. The adults didn't say anything either. "Just do it." Curly Hair dug while constantly complaining. "But these aren't Sui's words. Wasn't it Curry who said it?" He sighed and quickly explained again. It came from Sui's head. Remembering something, Bun smiled and chatted with his two friends. But Sway is a bit strange, right? Can't speak but head is full of thoughts. Curly Hair also had to stop and smile and praise. Anyway, the two of them suit each other. Sway is full of thoughts and Curry reads thoughts. Everyone laughed and nodded in agreement. Right, right. Seeing everyone laughing and joking like that, Buzzcut quickly urged. When working, you must focus and work hard. The uncle continued to criticize the kids. If you keep laughing like that, that part will be delayed. These words made them continue to dive into digging the soil. Time rewinds to the previous evening. Buzzcut was slightly surprised. There is something to do before hunting? Everyone looked blankly at Dong Yu. What is it? Something to do first? Dong Yu constantly gestured. And Curry repeated it to everyone. Build a storage. Slit Eyes and Bun were still bewildered. What is a storage? Dong Yu constantly performed actions. She laughed and explained for everyone to understand. Not cold and not hot. Not wet and not too dry. And that is also the reason everyone kept digging. Like today. A place always stable and unchanging. Some time later, snow kept falling continuously. Just in one night, the snow got thicker. This made Curly Hair and everyone worried. Running outside. His face became extremely tired of the weather. Looking at the pits they spent effort digging right in front of their eyes, being covered by snow, making him completely bewildered. What to do now? It's covered in snow here too. Seeing that, everyone hurriedly took out tools to dig snow. Dig it out, hurry up. Some time later, Curly Hair happily looked inside the cave. Luckily there is no snow inside. Hearing that, everyone also nodded in agreement. That's right, no snow inside. Remembering something, Madden quickly suggested. Must do something to seal that entrance. For now. The scene shifted to the next morning. Looking at the results they achieved made Buzzcut unable to hide a smile. But inside here is definitely different from outside, right? Madden hearing that turned back in bewilderment. What? The uncle gently placed his hand on the ground. The uncle's face became extremely happy. Whatever is put here won't be frozen. Saying that, the uncle walked towards Dong Yu and praised. Sway thought of something amazing. Receiving praise from everyone made him extremely happy. It was time for everyone to set out for hunting. Buzzcut used a stone to constantly break small branches. Slit Eyes and Curly Hair quickly did the routine work. After bringing the wood back, Madden constantly calculated. Holding a piece of wood in his hand, he asked in surprise, is this length enough? Buzzcut saw that and laughed in praise. It fits perfectly. Everyone quickly wove these branches into a door. After finishing the result, Buzzcut laughed with delight. Done, the uncle smiled and pointed at it. But the door has blocked this passage. Everyone was extremely happy when seeing their achievement. How is it? Very good. Dong Yu and everyone quickly bent down to examine the inside of the cave. Buzzcut continued to suggest to everyone. Now that it's all done, we must fill this inside up, right? During the daytime, the women in the tribe walked outside to find food. Pigtail smiled looking at the fresh flour in front of her. She happily brought it to the mother and asked, can this be eaten? The mother suddenly took this item and put it in her mouth. Chewed it and so. Fruits and vegetables reserved for the next season were placed neatly into the cellar. On this side, every man in the tribe was constantly hunting. Matt in quickly signaled everyone to stop. Seeing that, everyone's face became serious and followed suit. He continued to point forward and announced, everyone look over there. A herd of young deer is still looking for food here. That one in the middle. Madden raised his bow high pointing forward. He didn't forget to remind everyone. All shoot at once. And so these arrows pierced straight into the poor young deer. This made Mullet on the side laugh in delight. Hooray. And so everyone brought this trophy back together. Finally, the reserves were increasing day by day. As usual, everyone continued hunting. The scene shifts to inside the storage caves. It seems the amount of food collected is increasing. Days passed. Everyone continued life as usual. Amidst the flickering fire, everyone was sitting gathered there. Everyone's face became happy when enjoying the food. Dong Yu gradually became more familiar with this life. Time gradually shifts to late night. The moon has risen high. The wild wolves seem to have scented something. It stepped forward step by step. Following it were obedient little wolf cubs. This time the mother wolf detected something. Turns out, it noticed the food storage cellars on the side. It quickly lowered its head, sniffing down at the ground. The wolf cub on the side, seeing this scene, appeared extremely puzzled. It seems the mother wolf noticed the food hidden inside the cellar. It quickly used its nose to sniff more carefully. Right at this moment, the wolf cub beside seemed to detect something. It jumped very fast forward. Realizing the danger, the mother wolf hurriedly howled to signal. But the wolf cub didn't listen and continued running forward. Inside the hut, everyone was still deep in sleep. The wolf cub constantly scratched at the wooden door layer. Hearing a strange noise, Dongyu suddenly opened his eyes wide and woke up. He sat up and looked outside. What is it? Perhaps Dong. You also discovered something was wrong. He quickly grabbed a weapon and walked outside. His face became thoughtful. Silently pondering. It seems over there, what sound is that? Right at that moment, he discovered a food storage cellar door had been broken open. This made Dongyu become extremely worried. Inside, the mother wolf and the cub were frantically eating. Dongyu risked his life to go inside to check. Something broke the door and went inside. Noticing this situation made him freeze for a moment. His face became unbelievingly bewildered. Huh? Dog? Wolf? At the same time, the mother wolf also detected his attention. It quickly rushed forward, making Dongyu scream in fear. Hearing the scream, the adults in the tribe hurriedly sat up. Madden asked in surprise. There was a sound, right? Buzzcut replied in surprise. Isn't that the sound of wild animals? On this side, Dongyu was still using a stick to fend off the mother wolf. Just thinking about being alone, having to fight this beast, made him extremely worried. I screamed so loud, why isn't anyone coming? Can the sound not reach the hut? The mother wolf's appearance looked strangely ferocious. They smelled the food, so they came here. It quickly rushed towards him to attack. On this side, the adults also woke up and looked around in bewilderment. They constantly discussed with each other in confusion. Didn't hear anything, misheard? The scene shifts to inside the food storage cellar. Dong Yu was still using his weak strength to block the mother wolf's attack. Wait. There was no other way. He constantly screamed in hopelessness. This made the adults quickly pay attention. Huh? That was the sound just now. Chinbeard didn't think much. Immediately urged everyone, hurry in and sleep. Just the sound of animals. On this side, Dongyu was in a difficult situation. Damn it, he despaired, looking at the scary face of the mother wolf. I can't speak, so they don't understand. Not screaming but must speak. He didn't know what to do next. Speak, I must speak. His mind had nothing left. Speak. Dongyu's voice became trembling. Wolf. Finally, he used all his strength to shout loudly. Wolf. This surprised everyone. Turning back, the wolf was gradually getting closer to him. Dongyu's body trembled strangely. Wolf. A scream rang out. At the same time, an arrow arrived just in time. Luckily, in the critical moment, Buzzcut quickly used a stone to hit straight at the mother wolf. This caused it pain and it hurriedly retreated. Dongyu, seeing someone arrive, regained his composure. Buzzcut constantly urged, hurry and run out. Seeing this situation, he didn't hesitate and ran outside. Seeing him appear, everyone around was extremely bewildered. Sway? What? It's you? Tears on Dongyu's face kept flowing down. Curry and everyone hurriedly approached to ask. Are you okay? Not injured? Is there a wolf inside? The scene shifts to the inside. Buzzcut continued attacking the wolf. Everyone turned to look inside, with worried faces. This time everyone continued to grab weapons and ran in. Dongyu, along with the children outside, waited for a while. Finally, the mother wolf and the wolf cub were also brought out. Buzzcut annoyedly threw the mother wolf's carcass down to the ground. It's over. The women, seeing that, breathed a sigh of relief. Madden raised the spear in his hand. While he was preparing to kill the wolf cub, Dongyu reached out to signal. He was slightly bewildered, looking at this action of his. But Dong Yu was extremely decisive and constantly stopped him. Madden was slightly surprised, but still nodded in agreement. He slowly released this little wolf. Time ahead has shifted to the morning of the next day. The children were extremely happy, looking at the scene in front of them. Not only that, even Dongyu and the two accomplices were extremely excited. The little wolf on the side kept howling. Dongyu, seeing that, gently reached out to it. On this side, the adults were still worried. When looking at the two, Dongyu constantly signaled hand gestures to the little wolf. I won't hurt you. Its eyes were still annoyed like that. Seeing this situation, he hurriedly tossed a piece of meat in front of it. This aroused the instinct of suspicion in its heart. Dongyu laughed and constantly signaled, it's okay, eat it. Seeing that, the wolf quickly snatched the piece of meat in its mouth. This made everyone around surprised. Discussing, look, it eats. Everything went according to plan, making Dongyu smile gently. The little wolf, having the meat, completely forgot about the incident yesterday. On a beautiful day as usual, Dongyu looked at the children, who were still playing with the little wolf. A very satisfied smile appeared on his lips. On this side, Mop constantly played with the little wolf. Not only that, its appearance made the children around here extremely excited. Involuntarily, Dong Yu's face became strangely thoughtful. He recalled the night he fought the wolf. Mother wolf, surely that was when I could speak. This made him feel bewildered and ask himself. Because the situation was too urgent. Did the instinct awaken? Wolf. Dong Yu sighed tiredly thinking about the language of this place. Different concepts constantly appeared in his head. It's in my head. At this moment Dong Yu slowly uttered, I. He gently placed his hand on his chest, stammering. Different sentences. I am here. Time has returned to late evening. Inside the hut. Everyone was still gathered there. The children were delighted. Touching the thick fur of the wolf cub. So soft. Dong Yu laughed looking at these little kids. So cute. The elder on the side witnessed in surprise. Chinbeard now felt extremely puzzled and asked. This little wolf is weird. Letting it out but it doesn't run into the forest. Girl 5 laughed voicing her thoughts. Maybe it likes humans. Pigtails also smiled and chatted. Because we feed it. The mother on the side laughed with delight. Right, that's right. After a period of thought. The elder quickly announced. It probably will only stay for a while. It seems the elder thought of unpleasant things happening. Humans are humans, animals are animals. Every species has its own place. The elder's eyes became extremely suspicious. The matter of two species living together. I have never heard of or experienced. Saying that, the elder turned to look at the little wolf. Dong Yu constantly stammered the words Fa, Mali. The elder slowly picked up the little dog to examine. Everyone finally smiled happily. Right then Bun on the side felt puzzled. Huh? Fa, Mali? Mullet also curiously spoke up. What? Sway just said something, right? The elder smiled and nodded telling everyone. That's right. Whether animal or human. When living in one place, we are family. Remembering something. The elder turned to look at Dong Yu. Sway, you too. The elder gently stroked the little wolf in his hand. And this wolf too. It seems the elder sensed something. So warm. Time rewinds to late night. Everyone continued to fall asleep. Suddenly the little wolves rushed in making Dong Yu confused. It kept licking his body but because of sleepiness. He quickly hugged it and fell asleep. Time ahead has shifted to the morning of the next day. The little wolf constantly sniffed on the thick snow. It ran very fast forward, making everyone hurriedly grab weapons and chase after. After a long day of hunting, this time they harvested up to 2 animals. Delicious pieces of meat, once again were grilled on the fire. The little wolf happily gnawed on the bone it was rewarded. Everyone excitedly ate large pieces of meat in their mouths. Outside, the snow was still falling ceaselessly. Dong Yu and everyone fell into deep sleep again. The little wolf, as usual, came to Dong Yu's place and licked his face. He sat up in surprise, looking at its bewildered face. Huh? Still feeling sleepy, so he quickly walked outside. Seeing the little wolf still walking ahead, made Dong Yu stand still there. He still didn't understand what the hell was happening. Huh? What? Seeing it constantly signaling to him, made Dong Yu confused. What does it mean? It was still running very fast forward. Seemed like he also understood something. He stood bewildered right there for a long time. Huh? The little wolf completely disappeared from this place. His eyes clearly showed sadness and reluctance. Could it be? Right then the elder walked over to comfort. Don't be too sad. It seems the elder had guessed this beforehand. It just returned to its original place. Both thoughtfully looked at the sky full of white snow. This place was gradually covered by that white color. Some time later, the children gathered together in bewilderment. Mop sadly spoke, don't see the wolf anywhere. Dreamy Hair also sighed and spoke up. The little wolf disappeared. Curry smiled comforting everyone's mood. Not disappeared. It went home. This made everyone slightly surprised. What? Everyone's eyes became expectant. Home? Where? A gentle smile appeared on her lips as she explained. I don't know. No. It returned to where its original family lives? Dong Yu gently glanced towards Curry. He involuntarily recalled family. When he first moved to this world, in his past life, Dong Yu was always alone. Original family. This made him think silently in sadness. Right at this moment, the familiar silhouette of the little wolf appeared. This made everyone surprised and pay attention. After Dong Yu walked outside, Curry seemed to have realized something. Huh? That is the little wolf. Now brought along 2 other little wolves. A happy smile appeared on Dong Yu's lips. The little wolf happily ran towards him. Both hugged each other tightly, as if they hadn't met for a long time. Finally tears flowed down his face. Tears of happiness. Time passed, the sky was still raining like pouring water. Dong-yu surprisedly walked forward and asked, "What's the problem?" He walked while looking blankly at Mullet. The three wolf cubs back then have now grown up visibly. He turned back to look at him and reminded, "Just go and see." His mysterious manner made him extremely puzzled. Dong-yu constantly asked, "Is there a problem?" Mullet continued urging, "Look." He quickly approached the large pieces of meat there to examine. Seeing that, he asked, "Understand?" Dong-yu shook his head thoughtfully, "I don't understand much." There was no other way. Mullet quickly bent down to announce, "Look closely, there is a cut down here." He still didn't understand what he meant. "Isn't it that we cut it when eating?" He sighed. Continued to look around this place, then announced, "Not just one place. All the meat here has had a little bit cut off." Hearing this, Dong-yu was surprised. Searching around. "Really? All cut off a little bit?" Realizing the anomaly, he turned back in surprise asking, "Who did it?" Time shifted to the evening of that day. Still as usual, everyone was sitting there waiting for the meal. Dong-yu's eyes immediately became thoughtful. He observed everyone's appearance. Everyone was still eating and drinking, full and satisfied, just being able to eat meat every day made everyone extremely happy. Dong-yu processed the meat while announcing to everyone, "If it's not enough, just say so, there's plenty of food." This made Slit eyes on the side laugh with delight. "Is this amount enough for everyone? With so many people like this, how can everyone eat until their bellies are full?" Everyone around also nodded in agreement. That's right. If we want everyone to eat until full, then we must go hunting more often." And so everyone continued enjoying the delicious meat. Time passed. Everyone returned to their huts, preparing to sleep. Dong-yu's face became thoughtful. When looking at the fire, Buzzcut, seeing that, stepped up and asked, "Sway, is something on your mind?" He didn't know how to explain to the uncle properly. After a period of thinking, he sighed and shook his head in response. "Nothing, I am just thinking about the next hunting time." His thoughts attracted Mullet's attention on the side. The elder, seeing that, quickly announced, "We are going in to rest first." Slit Eyes and everyone also turned to walk away. "Us too?" He immediately nodded understandingly. "Yes, we will go in later, before going to sleep." The elder carefully reminded, "All right. Remember to put out the fire carefully before coming in." Dong-yu smiled and nodded, "Yes, yes." Curry quickly walked forward. "I'm going in first too." He surprisingly followed her. "Do you need me to walk you back?" She smiled, shook her head and walked away. "It's okay, I can manage." In this space, only two people remained. Dong-yu and Mullet. He asked in surprise, "Why didn't you tell the elders just now?" His face became thoughtful. "Don't know how to say it." After a period of silence, he sighed and spoke up. "The person who stole the meat could be one of us." This information made Mullet extremely bewildered. "What? Are you suspecting a member of our tribe?" Dong-yu nodded firmly. The sky outside was getting darker. Mullet walked while holding a weapon and asked, "But if we want to catch that person, shouldn't we guard in front of the warehouse?" Dong-yu shook his head and announced seriously, "No, doing that won't find them." This information made him extremely confused. Why? He continued to speak his thoughts. Evidence, not looking for traces first. Of course Mullet still didn't understand this. Evidence. Dong-yu continued walking forward. "There will definitely be traces." He constantly asked, "What traces?" His eyes became thoughtful, pondering. Traces of secretly grilling stolen meat somewhere. Finally he understood what he was saying. "Ah, I see." On the side, the wolf seemed to have detected something. Both quickly turned back to alert the two people. Seeing that, the two hurriedly followed the direction the wolf indicated. Up ahead, there was a group of people still constantly burning a fire. This made the wolves extremely ferocious and they rushed forward. But the next scene made the wolves stop immediately. Dong-yu and Mullet froze before this scene. Slit Eyes turned back in surprise and called out, "Sway." He and everyone were still grilling meat. "Eating here. You're here? Want to eat together?" Time seemed to stop. Dong-yu and Mullet froze for a moment. The more he thought, the more angry Mullet felt. "No way. Why secretly bring meat here to eat like that?" Slit Eyes heard that and laughed, continuing to grill meat. "The meat in the warehouse isn't yours alone." He quickly stepped forward, criticizing, "This is what everyone hunted together. You can't do this." Even so, Slit Eyes refused to admit his mistake, and constantly retorted, "I also participated in the hunt. So what's wrong with eating like this? Right?" Then, Dong-yu's face became extremely annoyed. At the same time Slit Eyes also turned back and threw a piece of meat forward. "Hey, you guys eat too." Seeing the delicious meat in front of them, made the wolves slightly hesitant. While they were preparing to eat, suddenly Dong Yu quickly reached out to stop them. Wait. His eyes became extremely annoyed. Don't eat. You can't. Hearing his words, these wolves immediately stopped their actions. Slit Eyes, seeing that, smiled awkwardly, hastily suggested, we will just grill and eat all the parts brought here. Is that okay? Such fresh meat pieces cannot be thrown away. Dong Yu heard Slit Eyes say such words and was extremely annoyed, but couldn't do anything else. He coldly held out his hand and announced, only this time. Next time, absolutely do not do this again. This made Slit Eyes extremely smug, chatting with the two women. See? Sui didn't dare to say anything. I'm still a level above him. This made the two women laugh out loud. Seems that's true. There was no other way. Dong Yu and Mullet immediately returned. On the way, he constantly criticized him. You should have spoken more decisively. Remembering something, he also quickly suggested, I'll whisper to the elders. For you, okay? Dong Yu, after a period of thinking, shook his head and refused. No. Just leave it for now. If there are any more problems, I'll say later. It seems he had another plan in his head. Time flashed to the morning of the next day. Everyone had gathered there. Everyone's face became extremely puzzled. What's going on? Why call for a gathering? Dong Yu smiled and asked everyone, did everyone sleep well last night? Everyone, seeing that, was bewildered, not understanding what was happening. Not to waste time, Dong Yu immediately got to the main topic. Today I want to agree with everyone on some rules to be followed in the village. Of course, these confusing words made everyone still bewildered. Rules? What are rules? Slit Eyes' eyes showed clear annoyance. Dong Yu also didn't back down and stared at Slit Eyes. The video ends here. If you found it interesting, don't forget to press like to support Gao. Thank you and goodbye everyone.